the leak over off of Washington Street, on M, where the old park was. You know what I'm talking about? Is there something going on over there? It's running a lot, and I see, when I came through there Sunday, it's, something going, it was like tracks over in the park, maybe like somebody has driven over in there from the leak, I don't know. I talked about this
Yeah,
spot before.
we are aware of that leak, and we presently, last week, we did 2 taps. A tap is a new service to a customer. One was across from the fire department, and another we're gonna start on is on 4th Street at a house someone is getting built. So new services, they pay for street cuts, and they like to have their water, you know, in a timely manner. Like I said, we know about Washington Street, and due to the rain that we recently had, we weren't able to get to it, but I promise you, it will be taken care of.
I mean, can I say something?
Ms. Ford.
If this is extensive enough, or were you wanting also leaks, areas that had not been worked on yet? These are the ones that they completed up until November 24th, right?
That's right.
Issue with something that had to be ordered, or, I mean, it's a pretty big leak. I mean, I don't know. I was just curious.
Saturday, I went through there Saturday. The tire tracks you see, that was me going through there. I went all the way over. It's some houses that are up on the hill by Mrs. Edelma Sims' house. I went all through up there trying to see about those houses on the hill, all those trees and stuff. So Mr. Patton, that was me. I drove through the park.
Okay.
I drove through the park because I was trying to track the leak, but where somebody's just been pouring concrete over in the ditch that's causing the ditch to stop up. But the water leak, I know the water leak you're talking about. I drove through it. It's like a pool of water off on the side of the road. So that was me that drove through there this weekend because I was trying to show some folks the park and all those houses over there that can be redeveloped. So I'm sorry, that was me. I'm sorry, Ms. Pat. I drove through there like that.
Any other questions from Mr. Patterson on the water department? All right, thank you, Mr. Patterson. Mr. Valley, city attorney is next on the agenda.
I don't know what happened to orders 36, 38, and 41. I was not here at the last council meeting, so why they were not adopted, but they're included in your packet. Relating to it, I believe the last 2 meetings ago, there was discussion that you all want to talk to the mayor about it. I don't know what the issues were, but they're still in your packet.
Leak on Sesame Street, it does not have a definite location. And the Beach Street ordinance 38, I was trying to get clarity of why we were paying for private property cleanup. And I know those 2 I asked.
I had a question. Have they already been repaired? Both of these leaks, both of them on Sebastian and then see on ordinance number 36, 38, 36. I have an issue with that because the city, what about the person who owns the lot? Why didn't they pay to have this cleaned up? I'm not $36,000. how much have the person who owns this lot paid the city to get this cleaned up? The city's, so the taxpayer, again, the taxpayers are gonna take this $36,000. What has the owner of this property paid? Why are we paying something?
Well, good question. Mr. Wright, if I could, I think as I answer their questions, I can also answer some of your questions.
Can I ask one? At the last meeting, this total was on the 18,000. How did it get to be 36?
The rest of the invoices came in, so I changed the total. It was 14,400 on the previous ordinance. And the balance of the invoices for the work they had done came in, so I added it all, put it in the.
So I'm going to try to my best to address these three issues in the previous meeting. The first one on Sebastian Street for $9,500, the discussion came up, but this was during a water emergency. And so Ms. Ramsey and I agreed to put it on the agenda to give you the option to approve it. And I just made the point that it wasn't so much of me approving over $5,000 because the emergency allows me to go up to the state minimum, or the state maximum, I'm sorry. And that's well under that. And it was an emergency, and Mr. Patterson is here to talk about that, and it has been fixed. And the price for that was $9,500. Ordinance 38, I don't agree with either.
They say you authorized.
But I didn't. And I don't know who that is, but it's not accurate. What I authorized was up to $5,000 and hopefully substantially less than that to remove the rock. So I didn't approve this. I'm not asking Mr. Valley that ordinance number 38 be approved. And it wasn't my request, and it wasn't anything I ever approved. It is a good question about the private ownership. We have a lot of private ownership lots that people pay the city to clean up, and it's in our interest in many cases to clean up blight, to take an agreed upon amount. In this case, our former code officer made an agreement with the property owner, and that specific location, the man who owned it passed away. It took some time for his will to be probated. It ultimately was left to his wife, and his son is managing her affairs. And he talked to the son and worked out an agreement, and they did make a payment, as according to him, what I'm told. I didn't see the payment or take it, but I believe they did. But I never authorized this price or this expenditure. And I would argue against you voting for ordinance number 38 myself. So I'm definitely not for it and ask for it to come before this council. On ordinance 41, animal containment unit, I have to apologize. I don't remember why we didn't vote on it, but there was a reason. I can't remember now what it was. Well, actually, we did vote on it. It didn't get majority vote, but I don't remember why or what the issue was there.
So ordinance 38, when it was 14,400, were you for it then?
I'm not up for anything that's over $5,000, and I didn't authorize any of it. Heard talk about an invoice, but I've yet to see one. So
What do you mean an invoice? So you
an
said-
invoice about this. What I did say, it was okay to use that company to move the rock, that that's the only thing we could do. But I never authorized anything over my spending limit, nor encouraged it, nor even entertained it, or even discussed it,
So what made
let
you
alone
just
approved
do
it. And I've still not seen any document with a invoice, proposal, or anything else. It's just one day we ended up with these. Those two containers are still on that lot. Are we being charged for them now? I don't know. But I can tell you that I did not bring this before the city, and I'm not bringing it before the council. And I would argue, Mr. Valley, against you approving it for that reason.
I hadn't asked anything to be approved.
But I didn't put it in this packet. I didn't
I didn't
draft
put it
the
in the packet
ordinance.
either.
And
Well,
I didn't
put it in
ask
the
that it,
packet because it
I
wasn't
didn't
voted
ask
on.
that it be done, and I would encourage you not to approve it because we never approved this expenditure.
I
At
don't,
any
We was
level,
told that
but I don't
you
Well-
authorized
let me,
Who is the people?
But who told you that? I didn't tell you that.
let me pause for a second. I don't know how I'm the subject of this. Ms. Rams,
You asked the question.
That's
Why,
what-
why did we, what did we do? And why is it still in the packet? That was your question.
well, I said I wasn't at the last council meeting. I don't know what happened, and that's what I said.
And that's what I'm trying to answer.
Right, but I wasn't the person that was trying to say anything was wrong with this. What had happened, Ms. Ramsey, when she talked to me, she said, you were out of town. I took one of your sample ordinances. I want you to just review it to make sure I did this right. And I put this in the packet, the meeting that you were absent. And so I reviewed it. I said, yes, it's in good working order. Thank you for changing it and doing it. I don't know what the genesis of either one of them were. I don't know who asked for anything to be approved. I simply looked at what she gave me and told her, yes, it's in proper order, and thanked her for doing that. And I said, in the future, you get it to Ms. Simpson so that we can do it. We had that discussion in her office. Now, as it relates to what was prepared, only information I had was the information given to me by the clerk. And all I was asking for formally is, okay, I don't know why it wasn't passed. That's all I was asking. I wasn't
But
talking
that's-
about who did
that's-
what.
But I was just answering your question.
Yeah.
But that makes two of us. At one point, it was on an agenda and I asked it to be removed because I didn't ask for it to be approved. I never approved it and didn't pre-approve it. Don't know any more about it than you do.
Okay, on the minutes of November the 2nd, says a motion was made to table ordinance 38 until the next meeting. All present voted yes. So,
I made the motion if I'm not mistaken, but the motion, I made the motion because no one could tell me why we were paying for cleanup for private property. The only thing that was said that night was because that it was basically an eyesore, and it was said that the mayor would have to tell us who authorized this because it was like a serial contract where the person was being paid the same amount, was being billed the same amount over and over again.
And Ms. Carter, I can help you out with too. Mr. That I was asking, but I asked this question before. Now, the city workers, Mayor, how much did this private person pay us, Ms. Ramsey?
it's up for almost $5,000 he's
Okay.
paid.
So that means our street and sanitation workers could be picking up trash, doing everything else. But now, here's a video I got for April 15th at 10 a.m. You see our city truck, our garbage truck.
You're asking a different question.
No. I'm showing that if we were paid $5,000 to tear it down, we did. We tore it down. So now the next week, I went over there, got dumpster rental over there. But here's all our city workers. There's a video, because I was watching, there's a video right there of our city workers tearing this house down, and we only got $5,000. And now we decide, for the man, I wish the man who finished cleaning up the lot, took it to the landfill. Did we make any money from the landfill, taking all this trash, this stuff to the landfill? What did we get out of that?
Let me separate this into two things. Was the project approved? Yes. Did I want to see it cleaned up? Yes. But the part that this ordinance deals with, which is paying for the removal of the rock, I never approved that.
So what did you?
Didn't even know about it.
What did you approve?
I approved that we could use that company to help
Okay,
remove the rock,
okay,
but
you-
not this amount. And
How
never-
much did you approve?
well, I didn't think it even come close to $5,000.
No, sir, that's not my question. My question is, how much did you approve?
I didn't approve anything over my spending limit. And it was never
That's
given.
in writing. I'm just asking a
Well, you're
question.
asking me to prove a negative. It's not in writing. The answer to your question is it's not in writing that they ever proposed anything to us. And this is, I've never seen anything in writing, and certainly nothing over my spending limit. So the reason I'm against this ordinance is that this is fiction. It was never approved. It was never submitted to be proposed for approval. I've never seen anything, I've never seen anything under my spending limit, but I'm gonna say maybe I did, but I don't recall that. But I've definitely not seen anything over my spending limit about this, and I would not agree to ordinance 38 because the proper process was not followed in my office or as far as I know, any office of the city. So just because somebody sends us a bill after the fact doesn't mean we have to approve it. That's not the way this works. And now I like the company, I like the owners. They may have been told something. And I'm not trying to demean their character,
Who is the company?
but I never authorized this.
Who is the company?
I'm not gonna,
Okay.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, and I wouldn't
Sunlight.
call them out on the radio
Sun-
anyway.
Sunlight. Is that who it
I'm
is?
sorry.
Sunlight.
I don't feel comfortable talking about specific people and companies, but because I don't
Okay,
know
Ms.
that,
Ramsey. I mean, not Ms. Ramsey, Ms.
all I know is it didn't come through my office and it didn't get approved by my office. And
Did-
so I would
did
not
you
ask
receive a
you.
Contract from Sunlight
There was-
about this property.
No.
Not you saying.
Oh.
I'm talking, I meant Ms. Albert and the mayor.
Well, there's no contract. No, answer is no.
This is a
You
question.
didn't receive anything from Sunlight.
So you mean to tell me this man decided he just want to help the city out and bring his stuff up here and help? So have he been paid a dime?
Not on this project.
So what, so on other projects he been paid?
Yeah, and
Yes,
and I enjoy working with the company. It's a good company, but on this particular project and this particular amount, nothing was approved. I'm not out to embarrass people.
Say that
If
again.
you want to do that, that's your right, but I'm not going to specifically call out names of people and companies.
Mayor, this
It's
is the
embarrassing.
city's money that you're trying to get us to pay somebody. Who we paying then?
I just told you I'm against paying it. So why are you
But
saying
still,
that?
who paying?
I never put it, I had it taken off the agenda. Y'all put it back on.
you wouldn't hear us, we want to put it back on
Saying
because we
who-
want
who- who is
clarification
the
of it.
contract?
That's right. The next
That's-
meeting,
that's
I had it
requested
taken
to
off
be
because it was a moot point.
Maybe that's it. Who is
It's
the
a moot
contract?
point. They never submitted any paperwork asking permission to do it or approval to do it, and we can't approve and pay, and I would never ask you to pay for something after the fact. There were no contracts that I'm aware of, no.
Other jobs that he did for the city. Did he have a,
The only one I can think of off the top of my head, but I know he's done others, is he helped clean up the animal control mess out there. And that cost $300. So I do have a memory of that. That was $300. They left it there longer than what it would normally cost, but I told them that we couldn't do more than $300 and they kept their word and they've been great to work with. I'm just telling you, this was never presented to my office and never approved prior or after, and I'm not asking you to approve it now. So we spent a lot of time on this, Mr. Valley, but that's the answer to your question. Why is it still on there? It wasn't approved, and I'm saying, I'm asking you not to approve it.
Okay.
I'm not asking you to
I
approve it.
have a question. Greg Williams turned in an invoice dated, Sunlight Services turned in an invoice on October 4th for $4,800. They turned in another one for $4,800. Code enforcement dumping on Beach Street. They turned in another one October 18th for $4,800 for dumping on Beach Street. Removing the dumpster runner is $300, 16 dumps at $300 a dump. Then you have another one, 10/7, they did 10/5, 10/6, 10/7, 10/6 again. They dumped 11 loads on 10/7, 5 loads on 10/6 came at $4,800. Then they came back on 10/8, 4 loads, 10/11, 5 loads, 10/12, 1 load, 10/13, 5 loads, 10/14, 1 load, came to $4,800. They came back 10/14, 4 loads, 10/18, 1 load, 10/19, 1 load, 11/1, 2 dumps, 11/2, 5 dumps, 11/4, 3 dumps, came at $4,800 per code enforcement. 11/8, 5 dumps, 11/9, 10 dumps, 11/10, 7 dumps, 11/12, 2 dumps, came to $7,200. Invoice dated November 15th. So these are serial contracts, And it says that Greg Williams still a code enforcement. So he authorized, so you must have known, because here it is in black and white, there's $3,600, $36,000, including tipping fees, 120 loads that goes to landfill. It's a sunlight service dumping beach and port property. So Mr. Williams' name is on here. That's the code.
Mr. Williams has no authority to approve spending, and you don't see my signatures on them, and I've never seen what you said. I'm kind of curious as to why you've seen them before I have.
Well, you see, well, I can't say what you didn't see.
Do you see where I've approved them?
Man,
Yes or no? Do you see evidence that I
I'm just gonna
approved
say,
them?
we know how you do business. You have a whole lot of serial contracts that does not come to this body to
That's
be
not
approved.
true.
You have a whole lot of serial contracts, same serial contract with this computer service, same serial contract you got with other vendors in the community. Frank Clancy, you got houses being torn down by Delco and Associates, on and on. But you're talking about I'm giving blank checks to my friends. Mr. Mayor, you are giving blank checks to your friends.
I'm asking you not to approve the checks to these
Man, but if
invoices.
you have,
that I have yet to see.
If you knew this,
I
you
didn't know it.
think about it. You saying you didn't know, but evidently you did know. Greg ain't, Mr. Williams is your right-hand guy. He ain't gonna do nothing without you saying go for it. So the guy would be crazy to bring his dumpsters to a lot, let you dump, and nobody, and say, well, I'm just doing this for community service.
At this point, what the mayor has said is that he has not authorized any of those payments, and all those payments are unauthorized and they're illegal. And he stands by the fact that he has not authorized any of those payments. So any expenditure would be an illegal expenditure at this point. Illegal is action.
And again, on the record, I have not pre-approved verbally or in writing. You just heard about, and I've not even seen that. And just because someone turns it in who works for the city doesn't mean they've approved it. What it means is it's been submitted by the vendor. But if that vendor didn't go through the proper process to get approval beforehand, I'm certainly not going to come here and ask y'all to pay for it after the fact. And so I never asked for it to be on the agenda, never asked for y'all to pay it. So it's quite ironic, I think, that somebody would suggest that I'm the one that wants to do it when I'm the one that's been trying not to do it the most. And I don't think an ordinance, I think we wasted our time doing an ordinance and having this conversation because it didn't go through the proper procedure in my office. And it certainly shouldn't go through the proper procedure before the council.
But did Sunlight contact you about this with a contract?
No,
Okay.
not about this amount.
They could, Sunlight never contacted.
I knew they were picking up. I knew they were picking up material, and we do private property work all the time as long as they pay and it's approved. But and it goes back into our city. And it helps our city make income and it helps our city look better. And that project actually began to get cleared up before I was mayor by the previous administration. All I did was help complete it. It was interrupted by the death of the property owner. But as far as this money in this contract or whatever it is you're talking about, I don't know anything about it. Nobody's ever gotten my permission to do it, and I didn't approve it. And so any insinuation that I had anything to do with this is wrong. And it's just a distraction from trying to solve the real problems in this city.
And what's the distraction?
Mr. Treasurer, Madam Clerk, has anything been paid under this purported agreement?
I mean, that's what I was just gonna get ready to ask, just for clarification. Have there any checks been written for these particular invoices that just, so there haven't been any expenditures?
And I would encourage you not to now. The other items, Mr. Valley, that you mentioned, again, the council decided that they didn't feel like they needed to approve the 9,500. It was done under a water emergency. We discussed it. It's been sent out since the last meeting to the council, demonstrating that we are and have been under a water emergency, how we did it, when we did it, so forth. So the city council decided not to do it just for the sake of sort of pro forma reasons. And
Please.
Well,
don't
you
say
said, you,
all we asked for was clarity. No one could tell us what a water leak was, what caused the water leak. Nobody told us anything about it was under a water emergency or any of that. So please don't say that we just didn't approve it for the certain, we don't.
that's exactly what I said, is it was approved under a water emergency. Mr.
You just
Patterson-
said that tonight.
No, I said it at the last meeting.
This
And-
wasn't even on
and
the
you
agenda at the
contested-
last
you
meeting.
contested and told me
This
you-
was-
you would apologize to me in public if I could prove to you.
You ain't proved it yet?
Well, I sent it to you. We
No.
also, you got it, all got it.
No.
And
Yeah,
so,
what?
and so the $9,500 is a legal issue. It was an emergency. Mr. Patterson did explain it, and we talked about this at the last meeting. And since then, we followed up with proof that we were in an emergency and why and how, when we met and all the rest of that stuff.
This the one you said you don't care if we approve or not, you was gonna write the check anyway.
That's because it.
No,
was-
I'm just asking the question. Is that what you not, is that what
What I
you
said was, it doesn't actually legally matter because in an
No, that's
emergency.
not what
I
you
could-
said. You said it matter if y'all approve it or not, but Mr. Valley wanted you to bring it to us for approval, just to clear the book, but it does not matter
That's right.
if we approve it or not, because you're gonna write the check anyway.
It's already been done and approved, unlike the prior project. It was an emergency. It was on Sebastian. Mr. Patterson talked about it. And it did not require city council approval because we were in a water emergency. That's what I said. But
You didn't say
Ms.
the part about
Ramsey,
you
I
gonna
don't know
write the
that I
check.
mentioned Mr. Valley because he wasn't here, but I know Ms. Ramsey felt like it was, when I say pro forma, I mean that it should be done to clear the books or whatever you want to call it. But I'm kind of confident in legislative audit, they'll show that it was done legally. And we sent out the demonstration to y'all in your email, the proof that it was done legally. That's the reason we didn't do anything. And if you want, you can still approve it tonight if you want to.
Well, see, on the water bill, there's a notice on the water bill that I've seen. I'm pretty sure, pretty much you all seen that we're in violation from October to December. You know, why are we in violation?
Mr. Patterson, you want to address it?
I was asking the mayor, I wasn't
The
asking.
notices that have gone out to customers about health department advice on the water department. Do you want to discuss that, or
I was just asking you, I wasn't asking Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Patterson is the general manager of the water department, and they send that information out.
We got that.
No, I never sent that email. I never saw an email that said that. Mr. Patterson, the general manager of the water department, you're recognized.
Thank you. On that issue that you saw on the bills, we're in violation of water operating licensing. According to the state, to have, according to our population and the rules and regulations of the state, you have to have a class 3 in treatment in order to be in compliance with the state health department. And I can tell you since April of this year, we've been out of compliance. Well, they are recognizing my license, but they urge me to go and get a 3 in treatment. And until then, in violation.
And I'll just remind the council that when we opened the position to hire a general manager, we got 2 applicants, only one of which had any experience or licenses at all, and that was Mr. Patterson. And one of the reasons is because, for the same reason that I tried to get Mr. Patterson a raise a few weeks ago or months, is because for a position that has to be general manager over what is really 2 water companies, not one, it is in terms of billing and other ways, but it's still 2 water systems. We're paying less than what people get paid who are licensed to run 1 water company. And so we're not competitive in that position. We advertised everywhere, including all the water journals, the municipal league and all the rest, Arkansas Association of Rural Water. Nonetheless, nobody who had all the requisite requirements even applied. Mr. Patterson is our most qualified person who applied and who works for the water company today. And the health department is giving us time to send our guys to Arkansas Rural Water to get licensed. And Mr. Patterson, you can elaborate that on it if you want. They're in the process of working on their additional licenses so we can get in compliance, and the health department is giving us some leeway to do that, but we have to notify the public. And that's the actual answer to that question.
We've been out of compliance for 8 months. Are we being charged for this?
No,
We haven't been charged one time for
not
this.
that I'm aware of. Mr. Patterson, are you aware of any?
What have we been charged for?
For not having a licensed water operator.
That's the same thing.
I mean, you in violation.
That's what I'm saying. So we've been
But-
paying a fine for this.
No. They have been very diligent with us on that issue. And like I said, they are encouraging me to get a class 3.
So we have not paid one fine for being,
No,
we
ma'am.
have not paid a fine for nothing for being out of compliance.
No, no.
With not just this, anything
Well,
in the water department.
the violation that Mr. Franklin spoke about is the water license operator's license. That's it.
I'm saying, but my question is, are we paying any fines because the water department is out of compliance? That's the only question.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Mhm.
And they gave us until when to come into compliance?
Well, before there is no deadline or specification. I have to deal with the health department and Martin Nutt to schedule class and then a test. I went to a class and 30 days later I took a test and I failed it. I haven't been to class in 11 years and things change in 11 years. The class was very helpful, but after the 3-day class, I had to wait a month until I took the test. And yes, sir.
I was going to finish because I was because I went to get finished, Pastor.
When I did go take the test, everything was different. It was different.
Class that you took?
Yeah. See, everything that the water company is based on California, on their rules, their regulations. It's based on California. Water licensing, when you take a test, it's sent to California to be graded. And it's based on California form and rules, not state of Arkansas. Go ahead.
And see, Ms. Patton, that's how I know an email was sent out. I was going through my email because it stated that you didn't pass your test and you was gonna go back into the field to work as we search for another waterman. I know I'm not crazy. We all got the email. But when they say, do you remember that email?
I'd have to go look and see.
See, we got an email that was saying that you were gonna go back out, into the, you won't be interim anymore. You would go back into the, to your regular job. So that email I got, I just hadn't found it, but I wouldn't, because when you say you didn't pass the test, they sent us an email saying that Mr. Patterson did not successfully pass his test. He will be going back to his normal duties as we search for a waterman.
If I may interject between the two of you all discussing it. Mr. Patterson volunteered to talk about the test results, but I think that should be germane to something private and not for public discussion. So I would caution you all about continued discussion about his testing results and that. While he volunteered and opened it up, I don't think that the body should continue to address that issue.
Yes, sir, I apologize.
And I'll always say this, the Department of Health has said, as long as our employees are active in pursuit of licensing, going to class, scheduling tests, they're being very lenient and patient with us to get into compliance. And so we have not paid the fine and we haven't been fined. They waived those issues as long as we're in an active pursuit to get in compliance. But one of the things we have to do is notify the public, and that's what that is. That's what began the conversation, I think.
Keep trying, Mr.
And any other questions about Mr. Patterson? So, anyway, going back to the agenda, trying to, Mr. Valley, I'm just going to.
Ordinance number 41 is relating to the housing of animals.
So there was a motion and a second, and there weren't enough votes to pass it. That's what actually happened.
Now, by the way, the city was sued relating to the Humane Society and the dogs. The mayor was recently served on that. I sent it to Mr. League. I don't know if they're going to take it, but we will file a timely answer to it. But I just wanted to just inform you that there was a lawsuit by the Humane Society.
And specifically, they're claiming that they did not owe the bill that they were charged. And I know that Mr. Patterson, you're getting a lot of work done tonight, but I know that I requested it, and you did too, that the bill be audited. At first, we thought there might be an issue with the new meter. The people who installed those meters and sold us those meters came down and looked at those specific meters. And then the billing was reviewed, I believe, with billing department. So the suit is over their water bill. I have in turn asked Mr. Valley if he would investigate those issues that I just mentioned, water bill audit, a meter issue for, and if the bill is correct, then we should take the legal, and then why it wasn't paid, if they had shut off notices, if they didn't, why they didn't, if it wasn't shut off like it would be normally, why was it not shut off? Who made those decisions? Is there any, we need to know those answers. And then depending on the outcome of those answers, if that bill is accurate, then we should sue them for that bill. That's a large amount of money. And even if it's not, that's what we would do with anybody else. And I know we have a lot of residents who get their water shut off because they can't pay the bill. And I don't think it's right that anybody gets treated differently from that. And obviously somebody did, but until we audit that, so Mr. Patterson, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I know when that came up, we had the meter people down and we looked at the bill. And I guess I'm gonna ask Mr. Valley to advise you here since we have been sued on the bill. I'm not sure, Mr. Valley. I'll let you decide what he should say or whether he should talk.
Well, I was just telling the city council what it's about. There's an allegation that they owe approximately $29,000. They dispute that amount, and I'm trying to gather information from the city to defend the lawsuit and send that to Mr. Lee. I've had a conversation with them. They may just send it back to me to file an answer. But typically on lawsuits like this, we send it to them first to see if they're covered, then they send it back to me. But we will, we will go through all the processes that the mayor talking about, as far as audit, for checking the meter and et cetera, because they're alleging there's no way that they could have possibly even generated that type of bill. Is what part of that allegation is.
Bill unpaid.
It's not, I don't know all the specific months, but I haven't looked at it in a week as to what it was, but there were months that they paid, there were months that were not paid. And then there were months they paid very large sums, and then they go a couple of months without paying anything. So I would have to get you a copy of the bill to answer that question, so you can see that I don't want to make anything up. Yes, sir.
Now, somebody had were payment arrangements. They were allowed to make payment arrangements, right, Ms. Patton? They were allowed to make, the water department was allowed. I mean,
right.
The Humane Society was allowed to make payment arrangements, right?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to knowledge, okay.
In a 6-month period, they sent us 2 checks.
2 checks, you know, because see, I was told that, well, when I was asking about this, they were allowed, they had asked spoken with the mayor to make payment arrangements on their bills.
Again, that's not true. You
I'm-
keep saying things
well,
that people tell you that aren't true, and you say them on the radio, and people believe them.
Well,
It
you
never
can't believe it.
happened. Nobody
Gentlemen,
called me about it.
If,
As a matter of fact, the only reason we even know is because I asked the water department to give me the 30-day past dues, and they were on it. That's the only reason you even know
No, I
that they
don't.
owe a bill.
I know a whole lot more.
Gentlemen,
than you think I know.
Only reason. No,
gentlemen,
you don't
gentlemen.
have access. You don't have access. You don't have access to people's water
Okay.
bills.
gentlemen, if I may,
So-
gentlemen, if I may,
Reckless allegations.
Mr. Patterson, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Franklin, let us cease and desist in having this conversation. This is a legal matter, and anything that you all say could potentially be used in the litigation. And so, Mr. Franklin, I would ask that you refrain from asking Mr. Mayor during this setting about anything about the meeting or making any allegations. Part of what the mayor said earlier also was that he wanted me as part of the litigation to see who authorized and et cetera, and all of that. And that's part of the due diligence that I would have to do as a lawyer in this matter. Regardless of the political affiliations or how you all feel and who your constituency is, this matter involves the city, and we must be on one accord in any litigation. And so I would ask that we refrain from it. I was just trying to tell you that we were involved in litigation. That's all I was trying to say. It wasn't germane to the point, but it sparked my mind, just thinking, seeing the ordinance. And we were on ordinance number 41. And all I was trying to do is simply say that we got sued, and that's it. And I apologize for taking us afoot. But we're on ordinance number 41. The mayor tells me, tells this body that he asked for it to be passed. Last time it was motion to place on third and final reading title only, and it garnered enough votes, didn't garner 4 votes, so it was placed back on the agenda. And that's, the question is on the floor. It's ordinance 41, that's 2021, authorizing $10,000, I believe it is. Appropriation, waiving competitive bidding and placing on the third and final reading the title only. Is there any desire to take up that ordinance tonight? Ms. Ramsey included in your packet. Well, I thought she did.
Very bad. I'll bring you mine.
I have it. I moved it to the top. I have it. Thank you. For the essence of this ordinance, what the administration was requesting is to purchase animal control and housing equipment, and vaccine for a cost not to exceed $10,000, which is above both competitive bidding and the mayor's spending authority. And so that's the purpose of ordinance 41, 2021. Is there a desire to go forward on that? Is your motion to suspend the rules placed on third and final reading the title only, Ms. Crockett? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Davis.
It is.
I saw your head move. I didn't hear the voice. I'm sorry. There was a motion. Is there anyone that seconds? This man appears that the motion died for lack of second.
Answer whatever, can questions be asked? Anything about this?
About the animal control.
All right, me.
Because, you know, you're asking for containment, whatever, but it's going to take more than that. It's going to take personnel. It's going to take a lot of things. I don't know. I think there's something missing in here. Is there any more information that I should have regarding that?
What would you like to know?
An approximate total cost of what it's going to be to operate this animal center. I know you said it will be at the landfill, but how many personnel people, how many animals can we hold? How much is it gonna cost to feed them? You know, it has to be more than $10,000.
Well, the appropriation is for the containment itself, containment unit itself. And I think it actually is the neighborhood of 8,000 something. So I think 10,000 was considered, it was around 9, is that right? With taxes and all that stuff. That's all that's in that. There's nothing for food or any of that stuff. Right now, we have no place to take animals. We have one person who is working as our animal control officer. He's licensed to do it for the city. We don't have anybody else, but he has no place to put them. And so this would provide a place to put them. The dog food, a good point. We've had people offer to donate dog food, but without a containment center, it's kind of irrelevant. It's a temporary solution. We haven't had a containment place. The city, I don't know the last time the city had one, but I think it was, 2008 or something like that. Excuse me, when the Humane Society of Delta was created in part to deal with that issue. And I think you know the history, I won't repeat it. But clearly that wasn't being done. The original idea was that this new agreement in 2008, the city at that time participated in it, the county did, other cities did. It evolved to a point, by the time I became mayor anyway, where it wasn't being used as a city animal control services. And so that has been a point of contention since I've been here. Probably since y'all have been here, I'd imagine. So one of those things is we need our very own animal containment place to put dogs and cats. We don't have a place for cats, but we need one of those two probably. This is just for animals. Now, in the budget that was emailed, in my budget that the treasurer and I worked on, you will see a full budget that does include personnel, does include supplies, and so forth in that budget. And that would be a really good conversation to have when we get to that point. This appropriation is strictly for the containment unit.
Yes, I would think that we should talk about containment once we get to that part, you know, so that you have a complete
To be clear, that means until we do that budget probably won't take effect till February 1st. Until we do, we have animals and dogs on the street. We've already seen evidence of people being bit, viciously being bit. We have no place to take them. And this will give us a place to take them.
Understand that, but they can't just be taken out there and just left there. You have to have personnel or whatever. And right now, the animal control person that's trained or whatever has another full-time position and only works 7 on the weekend.
Well, I mean, he did work today. He's on call all the time, actually. But it's not uncommon. The animal control officer for Cabot, I think it was, who came down to help us, has 3 jobs. He's paid substantially more, but he has 3 jobs, and that is one of his jobs. So it's not unusual. But my point is, this appropriation is strictly for that. And without that, you can have people, but if you don't have a place to put the dogs, it's not going to do you any good.
You can have a place to put a dog, don't have people.
But we do have a person, but we do have one.
I know, but you said that number, I no names, whatever, but you did say, and you kind of said that this person has another full-time position with the city and that he worked on the weekends for now. that's the information that I was,
But that's true, but he's on call all the time. And
if he's on
and
call all the time, when is he getting paid? He stops getting paid from his full-time job in the city and starts on the payroll for the animal control.
He's literally doing two jobs. And the only time he ever gets paid for that would be on the weekends or after hours. But the point, let me answer your point. All we have to have is one licensed person in the city. The police department, the street department, several other people can assist him in collecting the animals and taking them there and feeding them and a lot of other things. But you have to have a licensed person to actually contain them. And he is and has that authority to do that. So we have a person who can put the dogs in there legally, and he can get people, other city employees, to help him as needed. And I would argue that our citizens would like to see these animals off the street who are viciously attacking them.
I agree.
So it's
I'd like to
worth
see
it.
him off of my street too, but.
Mr. Franklin.
I have this,
Oh, no, we were done with the.
I have this question. So you tell me that now, when the budget is worked, I'd be happy to look at that, but right now we have, you said that, so do we have a code enforcer? For, is the person we're talking about, are they a deputy director, are they a code enforcement, are they animal control? Have they started a new role they've been put in? So if this person is now as a salary person, they shouldn't get paid for animal control or code enforcement. So it's a three-way split. Which way they going? Are they going to have the deputy director? Are they going to have the code enforcement? Are they going to have the animal control? That's three jobs. So if they're being paid for what's in the budget that you move them over, how they gonna get overtime? They're a salary person now, so it shouldn't be no overtime. It shouldn't be no double.
Well, no, I'm not aware that he is getting overtime right now, but he is doing the work. And we've had this conversation many times. Auditors have approved people being paid to do one thing and having multiple duties.
If they have a salary,
And let me finish, to have multiple jobs. On a salary position, you're right, he's not overtime. So if he has been, he shouldn't, I'm not aware if he has been. Ms. Crockett.
24/7.
My question is, if the code enforcer, if you have changed positions, how do you still work code, but you get paid for working landfill, but you've never been there? Look at this guy.
He's trying to help transition our new code officer and transition into that position. So he's doing a lot for the same price. And
For what same?
we have a lot of people who do that for the city, and
That hold a position that never showed up at the job that they are being paid for?
well, that's not
If
completely
we
true.
got that going, this person been to the new person that you had at the landfill, they've been working at the landfill.
They are transitioning into that.
Have they
job.
been working at the landfill?
They're doing all three jobs. They're
Have they
working
been
on all
work,
three
have
jobs.
they been to the landfill to
Yes,
do work
they've been to the landfill.
and
but-
did work at the landfill?
What's your specific question?
That's it. Have they
This
been to the landfill and worked at the landfill since they were put in the position and being paid to work at the landfill?
Yes, they have been sent to the landfill. They are transitioning. They're not there every day though,
And why is that?
because he's still training our new code person, and he still has some animal control duties. And, but he is transitioning into more landfill and less of the other.
Well, I've been to the landfill about 4 days and I ain't seen them nowadays. That was my purpose. for
You've
going.
been to the landfill when?
About 4 days in a row and I ain't seen them nowadays.
You've been out to the landfill the last 4 days.
I didn't say the last 4 days. I said, I've been there about 4 days. And neither of the days that I went was he there, since he's been assigned to that position.
That's fine, but you're getting into the day-to-day
No, that's
business.
not day-to-day operation.
Yes,
You
it
paying
is.
something, that's just like when the lady got fined for, they said allegedly stealing overtime because how she was getting paid for one job and doing another one. What's the difference?
I'm not really sure what you're talking about, but the auditors have looked at.
The auditors ain't
They're
looking
doing-
at
no, but-
him doing no landfill
The
work.
auditors have looked at one person doing more than one job, and that's what he's doing right now. Mr.
Mr.
Franklin.
Mayor, may I ask the mayor something? I mean, not the mayor, the city attorney.
Mr. Franklin.
Mr. Bell, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Department heads, do they have the right to hire the employee that they want? Or do the mayor hire for the department head?
The city policy is department head, the mayor hires department heads. Department heads hire their personnel with the consent of the mayor.
So if the department head said that they didn't want this employee, or they didn't want this, the department head, does the department head get to sign off on the employee that he wants, the person that he or she wants?
As a practical matter, the department head and the mayor work together for employees below the department head. Because department head does have authority to hire, but the mayor has to consent to every employee the department head hires. It's with the consent of the mayor.
So the department head, if he or she doesn't consent to, can the mayor essentially just hire the person if the department head doesn't make the recommendation for that? Like, can I just say, hey, I understand what you're saying, but can I just say, hey, I'm gonna hire this person, but
The way the city policy reads, it's the department head's duty to make the hiring.
okay.
The department head has to get the consent of the mayor for the person to become an employee of the city.
So the department head has to get the consent from the mayor.
It says the department head with the consent of the mayor.
Right, so the mayor doesn't have to take the recommendation of the department head.
No,
So can the mayor hire who he wants for the position?
as a practical matter, it's going to work out semantically the same way.
Okay,
As a practical matter,
Okay.
because what I'm saying is this: yes, the department head is the person has authority, but until the mayor gets the consent, the person is not hired. Do you see what I'm saying?
yes, sir.
And so it starts with the department head, but ultimately the mayor has to give his consent for the person to be hired for all the positions that are assigned to the mayor.
So-
And to be clear, the director, public works director was advised and spoken to and considered and in every other way agreed to Mr. Williams. And I will say this, we just got back from an audit committee where we had to submit for a bond to approve some money that came up missing. And it wasn't a large amount of money, but it came up missing. It's in our audit. And that person was put on leave without pay and then subsequently left the position. One of the reasons that happened is we didn't have somebody there, a set of eyes on there every day. I believe it's important that we get to a point where we have a set of eyes out there every day. And that's what I'm trying to get us to at the landfill. And one of the reasons is because of what happened. So, but he does a lot. And so we're trying to get him transitioned to the point where that's all he does. I'll let you know when we get there, but hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. Mr. Valley, anything else?
I believe that was it. We had covered all the ordinances that was there. Now, from a legal standpoint, the mayor has told you all, and I believe he sent an email that he had to be some of the first to submit his budget to you all. You all have to surpass a budget on or before February 1st. But by December 31st, you have to at least give authority to operate to February 1st. I know you all aware of that, but I have a duty to tell you that every year that the budget needs to take some action on the budget by December 31st and a final budget by February 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Valley.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I asked a couple of weeks ago, Ms. Ramsey, about is it possible, and I guess I need to direct this question to you, to have a section on our agenda for like the monthly new hires? Is it possible?
I forgot about that. I'm sorry.
New hires, just so that we can stay abreast of what's, coming up, what's going on, who's been hired, who we need to talk to, who we need to see if someone has a question.
That must have been a meeting on this.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, the last item, as far as I know, on the agenda is the issue of a bonus. So
We don't need to be calling it a bonus.
to
No.
the
It's
issue.
illegal to give bonuses.
the issue of the Rescue Act and bonuses or payments to employees. Without belaboring it too much, what I put before you is a resolution, but we can belabor it if you want, is a resolution that would allow us to pay all city employees, as it's described in the resolution, a bonus. It would come-
Mayor,
it's
can you
called a
not call it,
bonus.
it's not called a bonus,
It is in
You-
this resolution.
but I'm saying it shouldn't be. It's illegal to pay a bonus.
It's not in this case, because the money comes from the general fund, and the general fund money was reimbursed from the CARES Act that we got last year, last year was called a pandemic payment because it was paid directly from the CARES Act. This year, and I'll defer to our treasurer, but the money was reimbursed to the city through all of the overtime and all the other issues that we had during the pandemic. So it's actually in our general fund. And y'all have been here longer than I have, and I know that you've had Christmas bonuses in the past from the general
No,
fund.
I never approved no bonus. I've never approved a bonus.
You didn't get a bonus last year or
No.
2018, you didn't get a bonus?
Point of
No.
clarity. You all are
What
talking,
else you did?
this is one-time pay incentive, is what they're saying, it's a one-time pay incentive. And so that's the language that they're using, one-time pay incentive, because Constitution says bonuses can't be given because it can't be a gift. It has to be earned, so it's a one-time pay incentive is how it's always been styled. So that's the legal issue that they're saying to you about bonuses.
Well, it's a resolution, so if you want to take the word bonus out, we can. I'm just trying to use plain language, and I was at the city council meeting as a mayor-elect in 2018 when you approved something called a Christmas bonus. I was sitting out there and watched you do it.
Well, how about this?
So I know that you have. And last year, whatever you want to call it, that's okay. I'm not gonna argue about that. We can change, this is a resolution. We can change the name. Mr. Valley recommends that we change that word. We can do that. But what it does is take $1,500 for first responders, $1,000 for other employees, and gives them whatever you want to call that. If you approve it tonight, that I can deliver that to them tomorrow on our behalf. Similar to what we did last year, except last year it was, if I remember right, $950 and $750. This year it would be $1,500 and $1,000. That's what this resolution does. It comes out of the general fund, and it's approximately $200,000. And I would ask you to approve it so that we can do that.
We approved, a couple, last meeting.
I did veto it.
So that means that if you didn't veto it, it needs to be paid. If we approved it,
Well, according to the Arkansas Municipal League, you appropriate, but you don't actually spend the money.
who
So
told you that in the municipal league? Because
the,
I got a different answer than what you give.
okay, well, that's in the Constitution. And it's, I mean, you can ask Mr. Valley how this works. It's very basic, fundamental things. The council appropriates, the executive branch executes. The municipal league pointed that out. So there was no need to, there's no veto was never really an option. The question is more about, do we have the money? And what is legal and what isn't, and how long it would take to do it, who would get it and who wouldn't, who's allowed to get it, who's not, how much money we have left is probably ultimately the biggest question. We have, by our accounting today, less than $200,000 in that account that has not been obligated. And now you all know, if you go to your ATM machine and you get a balance, that's not your true balance. The true balance is whatever checks you got coming out or bank drafts coming out. If you look at how many bank drafts, how many checks we got out there, how many obligations we have out there, we don't have enough to pay what that resolution does.
That's not the information we received. Am I right, Mr. Treasurer?
As far as I know, as of the November 30th, we have
We went through all of this before we even voted on it. We got all of the information, so I don't understand where this is coming from.
as of November 30th, 2020, we have $972,425.65 cash available in the American Rescue Plan Act.
But Mr. Chair, that's the checkbook balance. That's not the obligations.
That's the ledger balance. I don't-
That's not the same thing as what we have left to spend.
But okay, what is the other money being spent on? Because there are certain things that money can be spent on.
I guess what the mayor's saying is that you guys appropriated so much money for various projects, but that's not actual cash spend. You can change appropriations if you want to at any point in time. Actual cash that we have available to spend in that American Rescue Plan Fund is $972,425.65. Yeah, and that's up to the city council
That's
to
a checkbook
appropriate
balance.
those.
That's not a true balance.
You guys
Certain things.
yeah, I don't know exactly what dates. Ms. Ramsey had the dates that you guys appropriated everything, but the appropriations came out to be on this financial statement. I have 754,000, a little over 754,000 in appropriations, but Ms. Ramsey gave me something. I don't have it with me, but I think it was a little bit more than that. So as far as appropriations are concerned, you have around 760, between 770 and 750 in appropriations. But in actual expenditures, actual checks that have been written for any individual projects, that totals $96,130.44 for actual expenditures. Yes.
How are we sure that the money that he said we appropriate, how are we sure that it goes into what he had appropriated for? Because money, can you tell us, I know, but can you tell the listener what this money can be appropriated for?
I mean, what
What does the resolution say this money can be appropriated for? Because you was on the Zoom call, the mayor wasn't, am I correct?
yes.
So you know what this money can be appropriated for, right?
You guys appropriated
No, what this money can be used for. You know,
The
in
CARES
the
Act, I mean,
Zoom call, what they said this money can be appropriated for.
the rescue plan.
Yes, sir.
You can appropriate it for
Premium pay?
COVID relief, yeah, premium pay, water, sewer, and broadband projects, and to replace lost revenue.
Okay, so the employees could have stayed at home, right?
Yes.
They didn't have to come to work.
So
Yes, they could have. No, and then Mr.
I guess what Mr. Franklin,
You're actually excluded if you work from home.
Hey, let the treasurer answer. He got elected. He know.
Do you want all the answers? You want the actual answer? Do you want just what you want to hear?
I don't care. I'm good. Long as these employees get things to get, I don't need anything. So, Mr. Turner, can you continue, please?
I think what Mr. Franklin is saying is that the employees, some of the employees had the option of not working. They could have received unemployment benefits. I think that's the point that Mr. Franklin.
And at the time, unemployment was almost $1,000 a week. People getting $1,000 a week. Our people, garbage, police, street sanitation, decided to come to work. We didn't close down not one day. They did we? They could have stayed at home.
I have a question.
Mr. Chairman.
I wasn't at the last discussion about this, so forgive me if I'm rehashing plowed ground, but you made a comment just now that veto was not an option, but yet you say there are appropriations that have been made that exceed the amount available. Why would you not veto it?
Well, there's no reason to. I called the municipal league, John Wilkerson, Karen Curry, who's the grants manager, person in charge of grants, both told me there was no reason to veto it, other than there was some issues about the resolution itself. It had both the lost revenue thing in it and the pandemic pay in it. Beyond, I mean, it needs to be two different resolutions, but that's kind of nitpicky. That's what they told me. That's all I can report to you. There didn't seem to me to be any real need to make a big show about it. We either have the money or we don't, just like with any appropriations. In addition, and I brought this tonight, on September 7th, according to our approved minutes, and I actually have been saying 80-20, so I've actually gotten it wrong myself, but we approved, all present voted yes. Resolution number 12, 90% of the funds will be utilized for water sewer department and 10% by broadband Wi-Fi project. After this was approved, we began to make expenditures in the categories approved. And we've obligated and actually paid some and obligated ourselves up to less than $200,000 of that $1 million. So by the time the resolution you're talking about was approved, we didn't have the money available to actually do it. Whether you think it was right or not, or accurate or not, all that was sort of irrelevant because we don't have the money to do it.
Well, if I may, one of the things that I'm going to say, clear up a couple of things that were just said. One of the things I was going to say is this: the city council, you all did appropriate the money, as the mayor said. Appropriations, I just said the appropriation, they could be amended at any time. And when the discussions were had, you always said the mayor still had to go through the bidding process to bring it back. And so there have been no other contracts to come above $7,500 that the council has approved relating to water or any other project. And so at this point, what the council will be doing is amending the appropriation. And so as a budget in general, at any point, the city council can amend appropriations. As it relates to the conference call with Mr. Wilkerson, I've spoken with Mr. Wilkerson, Mr. Turner spoke with Mr. Wilkerson, and Mr. Wilkerson specifically, when we were talking to him, Mr. Wilkerson, for those in the listening audience, John Wilkerson is the general counsel for the Arkansas Municipal League. They drafted a resolution, and the drafted resolution, there was we just would plug and play. And Mr. Turner asked him specifically about the portion that is lost revenue. There was a paragraph that was added with his advice and consent as the general counsel of Arkansas Municipal League and me as city attorney. There was a $5,000 appropriation, which Turner did the calculations, because under the American Rescue Act, it's designed for you to pay up to $13 an hour for a particular time period. And the time period was to begin February 2nd, 2020, up until the time this council so set. The resolution you previously adopted calculated 91 weeks, was from Sunday, February 2nd, 2020 to October 31st, 2021. And in those 91 weeks, what would happen is the employees would receive pay for up to $13 an hour. And that pay would be based on a limited amount of hours, because the hours that were based on $5,000 were 385 hours. So in essence, they would be compensated for approximately 4 hours and 15 minutes out of a work week for dealing with the public. The American Rescue Act deals with everyone versus the CARES Act leaned largely towards first responders. Because in the American Rescue Act, what was trying to accomplish in that act was the fact that more than first responders come in contact with the public. The council has made an appropriation of $5,000 at this point, and it was based on Mr. Turner's calculations for the time period and approximately 4 hours out of a total work week. The language that was incurred in it, the premium pay is only one of the portions of the provision. Mr. Turner has gone through a litany of things that the American Rescue Act covers. Premium pay. Now, here is the practical legal issue. The mayor has not vetoed it. And because he hadn't vetoed it, it's one of those things. One of the exceptions to, let me back up. Because you appropriate it, the mayor doesn't have to spend it. And that's the point he's been making. There's a limited exception to that is relating to payroll. The legal question that Mr. League and I have been bouncing back and forth with since the mayor hadn't vetoed is, what practically are we at this point? Does the mayor have the obligation to go ahead and pay it or not? And the practical issue, I think it should be paid. The practical issue is neither one's have a definite answer because this involves the premium pay. Some employees may tend to sue. I'm not inviting a lawsuit, but some of them may. We've been sued before for lack of payment. That's why I say that generally about it. Now, the practical issue is this. Here's how the evidence at trial will likely go. And this is the practical problem that Ms. League and I are discussing. The city cannot give gifts. And so that's why you all have properly identified that there's a one-time pay incentive. Because the city cannot give gifts, the city council has to make a determination that the money is already earned. And that's what the city council is doing in the resolution. You're saying that you've earned this money, we're giving it to you. And so that is the practical problem that we have. And that's why it may be an exception to the mayor's authority that he can generally deny expenditures. The mayor has to approve every expenditure in the city. No expenditure can be spent, just as he said earlier, in the relating to the ordinance that he was opposed to, unless his name is on, unless he says that I approve this, it can't be approved. But as I said in the email that I sent to you all earlier on Friday, we have this issue all the time with over expenditure as far as overtime. And the issue is we tend to lean towards paying that so we won't get sued. Now, in this situation, I don't know the legal answer. Ms. Lee doesn't know the legal answer in the narrow sense of whether we will be victorious if someone sues us for lack of payment on it. Because here are the facts as they will come out. You all made appropriation. You all said that they're entitled to $13 an hour, up to 385 hours, beginning February 2nd, 2020 to October 31st, 2021. Over the course of the process, for 91 weeks, every department head, the mayor's office, and others have approved payroll, and we're basing it based on those previously approved payroll payments. Every department head going to testify they approved payroll. Council is going to testify that they approved payroll. And so the issue is going to be is whether we would be victorious if someone would sue us relating to something the council has approved, but the mayor saying he's not going to pay. That's generally what the issue would be at trial. Whether they have a property interest is something that I cannot answer distinctly. When I say property interest, the previous lawsuits that people have tried to bring is that you're taking my property, I've earned it, or a breach of contract. Now, our employees are employees at will, so they don't have the type of contract, but they do have, they do work and et cetera. Now, the issue with the mayor's resolution tonight is the mayor's resolution does not even address the other resolutions passed. The other resolution is there, and I would advise you all to adopt this because the mayor will frustrate your purpose. The reason why this resolution frustrates your purpose, I was given this resolution at the table because this resolution does not repeal the other resolution and it's from a different pot of money. And so if y'all approved it as you have it drafted, it would be another appropriation because you're not repealing and you're not going from the same pot of money. So I don't think you want to accomplish it that way either because you're not directly addressing the other issue.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
What approving this resolution amended without the word bonus would do is allow us to unencumbered without all of these open questions, pay a bonus tomorrow out of a pot of money that is very simple, will not be federally audited, and it is like we did last year, just more money. Now, the issue with all of that other stuff is fine, but the problem with the Rescue Act is there is an account. It has to be paid out of that account. That is that true or not? We have, yes or no? We have to write it out. We have a separate account. We have to write expenditures out of that account.
There are two different expenditures. There are two different expenditures. In the resolution, there's one for American Rescue Act. That portion was appropriated $650,000. It had to be paid out of that account. The other was from the lost revenue account, which is $55,000 that would be paid from a separate account.
So you're saying that if it does turn out to be true that we have enough lost revenue that we have not already obligated, which is a very big point, we could put that back in the general fund and replenish
Repeat
If
that.
we wanted
I didn't
to,
get what
we
you
could
said.
put that back in general funds. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't understand what you said.
The lost revenue part.
The lost revenue part, it's my understanding from the city treasurer, we received approximately $200,000 in lost revenue to be recouped. In the lost revenue, the city council has to appropriate it for some legal governmental purpose, but there are no restrictions on the legal governmental purpose that the city council appropriated for. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. But in the case of pandemic pay, let me just point out to you the complexities of this. First of all, I listen to your legal advice and the legal advice of the municipal league. I have never heard, and it's the first time I've heard tonight from you, but we've been busy. It's not a critique of you, that there's any possibility that we could be sued over this money unless we do one and not the other. Whatever we do for one, if it's the same, we got to do the other. Other than that, we're not, no suggestion been made to me. However, they did tell me clearly that what the county did and what most of the counties in Arkansas have done with pandemic pay will probably be considered illegal and have to be paid back. And what the city is doing cannot be done the way the county did it. So we can't just write checks out of a checkbook.
They appropriated it, they signed the paperwork that they needed to sign, and that's why it took like a 5 to 7 days for them to get it. I had the paperwork where all of the money, it was said one time that half of the money came out of the CARES Act money and half of it came out of the county's money. That is not true. All of the money came from the CARES Act money, and everything that they had to do it, not only this county, but other cities have done it the same way, and the people have been paid this money, and there is no legal, everything was done legally.
Well, the municipal league told me that a lot of cities, and I've spoken to a lot of mayors, who have not done this, number one. Number two, the way that the counties are doing it is not appropriate.
And I asked,
And I'm just telling you what the municipal
Okay,
league,
but
I'm
wait,
just telling you what
I
John
understand what
Wilkerson
you're saying. Wait a
and
minute.
Karen Curry told me.
Wait.
And thirdly, there's an issue of whether we have that money. The resolution I'm presenting for you comes out of a pot of money that we do have and that we can do tomorrow, and it won't be federally audited, and it won't be encumbered, and it won't be an issue for audit or legally or any other thing that I'm aware of. Let me give you one example. If you make, is it $60,000, you're not eligible for pandemic pay. We have people who make overtime that reaches $60,000 who thinks they're eligible for this, but they're not. So every employee has to be looked at and it has to be treated the same, or we will be open to lawsuits and we'll be open to paying that money back. Now, are we going to pay it back by taking it out of their salary? I doubt it. And we just got through cleaning up our debts with the federal government. Do we risk having to pay it back? I was told yes, unless we do it correctly. And one of the issues is somebody made over 60, it's 60, I believe, is
67,500.
we have several people that make that much would not be eligible under pandemic pay. Now, if you say it's lost revenue, then you got to look at what we have already obligated out of that money that you appropriated and that we spent and we've obligated. We've got to pay it. Regardless of what we talk about, we still got to pay those obligations. So the question is, we can pay them the $1,500 to $1,000, which as far as I know is one of the best payment incentives or whatever you want to call it that city employees have received in a very long time anyway, and maybe ever. I don't know forever, but for a long time. We can do that. We can do it tonight. We can do it, hand them out tomorrow. And I will, if we can logistically get them cut, I will hand them out tomorrow. The pandemic pay, the lost revenue, the obligations we've already made because you appropriated it, that is a much longer and more arduous story of how to work out who gets what when and who doesn't, so that we do keep in compliance with the federal government. And when we are federally audited, and we will be, that's a requirement, we don't have to pay anything back, and we don't have to ask our employees to pay back money they're not going to have. And so all I'm asking tonight is that you approve this other resolution reworded to fit what Mr. Valley suggests, so that we can go ahead and at least in time for Christmas, give them what is a healthy payment out of general funds that the administration has already met about. We have an amount, we know how much it is and how we can pay it. Out of the Rescue Act, you can say whatever you want to say, but either we have the money or we don't. And we already appropriated it before this resolution was passed, and we've already obligated most of it. Now, the good news is Congress has a bill. And before Congress they waited till the Infrastructure Act passed, is a bill that would change this going forward, not retroactively, going forward to allow us to spend this for any government purpose. It basically makes it a lot simpler. They believe it's going to pass. I don't know if it's going to be before Christmas or after Christmas, but most likely is going to apply to whatever remains unencumbered from this money and next year's tranche of money. They think it's going to pass. They don't know for sure when, but the next month. That's going to make this discussion a lot easier. But right now, we have to work within the framework of what they say we have to do. And who's made over that amount of money with overtime? We got to go through all of that. And we just don't have it. So where's it going to come from?
Mr. Mayor, and I have to go, so I just want to ask one
We
question.
also have curfew to discuss.
Well,
Mr. Valley, I don't know if
But one comment and one question. Money can't be obligated unless we approve it to the sum that you're talking about. We haven't approved, we may have appropriated, but we haven't obligated because we haven't approved contracts. We haven't waived bidding on anything. That's the comment. That's the comment. And I have to catch your response on radio. Are you saying that the municipal league helped draft the resolution and later came back and said we were wrong? Is that what they're saying?
they said it should have been divided. And what they told me, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to make the opinion. I can just tell you what they said. It should have been done in 2 resolutions. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what they told me. But that's really not my issue.
The issue.
My issue is we can give our employees a bonus and still argue about this other stuff as long as you approve this resolution.
You're not listening to your city attorney. He just told you. Now, I know everybody around this table just heard the city attorney that was elected for this city to represent this city, who has been paid by this city, tell you that if we approve this resolution tonight for what you have proposed, then we'll have 2 resolutions where you're saying you're giving $6,500 to some employees and $6,000 to other employees because we already have one on the table. So my thing is, you always come back and tell us what the municipal league told you, what the municipal league told you. It does not matter what Mr. Valley says to you. You do not believe anything he says. You always say that you have, he's telling you that him and Mr. Turner was on the same conversation and they got a different response from what you're saying.
Here's one.
So, okay, go ahead.
After I sent an email to you all, I sent the Mr. League a separate email and they talked to me about it yesterday. The separate email that I sent to Mr. League was simple. I raised the question that I had about the nuance about whether there was a payroll exception. And I sent it to Mark Hayes, sent it to John Wilkerson and Lanny Richmond. And I also raised the question. I said, if there's a problem with this resolution, please inform me. The conversation I had with them yesterday was said, there's no problem with this resolution. You took the resolution you had, plugged it in, you added a paragraph. There's no problem with the resolution. I asked it to Mark Hayes. Mark Hayes didn't call me back, but John Wilkerson called me back and Lanny Richmond called me back. And so I talked to them because I sent them an email saying, is there an issue with the way this is drafted? Because it's their form resolution, we just added in. And Mr. Wilkerson had told me and Mr. Turner, okay, it's okay to add this paragraph because you must specifically say that for those that's over 67,500, and then we don't say that, we say for those who don't qualify, that they were paid under this provision. And so that's the specific paragraph that Mr. Turner and I talked to him about. We wrote it down and added it in accordance with what John Wilson had advised on that specific issue. And so it was all part of one resolution.
So, I mean, it really, I didn't veto it, and if you want to say that the resolution was fine, that's fine. It's okay with me. I'm not arguing about that. I'm just telling you what they told me. My issue is we don't have it. We do have it in this other pot. And I want us to be able to do it for everybody. if you make a, for example, Mr. Valley, isn't it true, Mr. Valley, isn't it true that if you make over $65,000, you're not eligible for a $5,000 or any other size pandemic payment? Is that true or not?
Generally, under the premium pay portion of the American Rescue Act, you base it on the salary going around, and 67,500 is above the amount that you qualify on the American Rescue Act. You have to be paid under a different provision, and that's what the resolution does. It says on the lost revenue.
Isn't it true? If you work from home, you're not eligible to be paid for that time that you work from home. Or say, for example, Zoom meetings or city council meetings are not eligible to be paid for that time.
The city council, that is correct. The city council provision would be paid. That's part of the 55,000 that's appropriated under lost revenue. Because as long as it's.
But it's not eligible under pandemic pay.
But it's a different part of the same resolution.
But it's not eligible under pandemic pay.
It's not under the premium pay. It's not under premium pay provision.
Okay.
But there's no restriction on the portion of lost revenue.
Okay. So, but you agree that there are a lot of distinctions and differences about who can get what under the premium pay portion of what the resolution says.
I think Mr. Turner.
Yeah, Mr. Turner
figured all
addressed-
of
Yes
that
or no?
out. I think Mr. Turner figured all that. He gave us all
Yeah.
of that information.
That's great.
He
But-
gave us all of that information, who could be paid, who could not be paid, how these people were gonna be paid, where the money was coming from. He laid it on the table before we made a decision.
Just-
We discussed a lengthy discussion about the water.
Well-
You did not bring it back up again until we made a motion to pass that.
Ms. Franklin, before you leave, I know we're addressing this issue. I don't know if you all want to adopt the mayor's resolution or not. But he wanted to talk about a curfew. It's not on the agenda, but we do need to address it briefly before we lose a quorum.
So you don't want us to address a curfew?
I just told you what I would like to do.
Well, I'm
We'll
asking you to be
make it the
clear.
next
You
meeting.
you
I-
don't
I'm
want to
clear.
address the curfew tonight,
We're going to address it the next meeting.
which will be when?
You know.
Well, we hadn't finished discussion on this, but generally under the curfew is going to be for minors unless there's an emergency declaration of the governor. If the city council wants to do it based on some exigent circumstances, anything over 24 hours is generally not approved by courts for adults. However, to remedy that, the issue that the city council probably addressed with the mayor is additional overtime for police, hiring other police, looking at making it easier to get police on the police department quicker so that you can effectuate this, because it's something that you have to throw money at and police officers at. And that's the remedy. That's the practical problem you have. When Mayor Valley did the curfew, the American Civil Liberties Union came down to contest the issue because they were saying you can't do it for adults. During COVID, that was under the Emergency Powers Act, the mayor was able to adopt a curfew, and that was because the government had declared an emergency. But for adults, typically it's frowned upon. The mayor, I was out of town yesterday. The mayor sent me an email at 5 o'clock yesterday. I reviewed it after court today at 3 o'clock, but I had the research already. But what he needs is additional law enforcement. He needs additional budgeting for law enforcement and other to help to curb this issue, because the only way you're going to curb the issue of the gun violence is additional law enforcement. And that's something that you all have to do sooner rather than later. I hope that addresses your question, Mayor.
Yeah, I think you said governor at some point. You might have meant mayor, because we've done this before a couple of times.
It was under the pandemic.
But we've done it.
Right, but
And
you
we-
had the authority because the governor's pandemic order was still in place.
But when I've declared an emergency for, well, I guess my question is, can a mayor, you mentioned Mayor Valley, can a mayor do a curfew without the council?
Not for adults, is what I'm saying.
Just juveniles.
Just juveniles.
So the only way we can have a curfew in our city is if the city council approves it.
No. City council can't do one on adults either, other than doing an emergency that has been declared by the governor, is what I'm saying. The issue with Mayor Valley's curfew was that it was on adults. And it had to end pretty quickly. And people forget that. The American Civil Liberties Union came down and they threatened a lawsuit and they were going to sue us. And it ended pretty quickly. People think they last a long time, but it actually ended pretty quickly.
So,
Because
so that I understand. Then the only way we could have a curfew other than the juvenile one, which already is in place, is if the governor declares an emergency.
that's correct.
Okay, so then this discussion doesn't need to be had because neither the council nor the mayor can do.
That's correct. And that's what I'm saying,
Okay.
because I was trying to address your issue that
I
you sent me
got you.
email. And the only way to remedy that is additional law enforcement officers, other things to help to get people on the street. And things that we've done in the past relating to that is zero tolerance on certain activities. And you'd have to get with your chief on that. We didn't have a chance to have a discussion this afternoon, but I saw your email at about 3:00 this afternoon.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
That advice direction. I do want to go back before we adjourn though, to make sure, I'm gonna plead on their behalf. We have the money, it's in general fund, $1,500 for first responders, $1,000 for other employees. And it's on the table. We can do it tomorrow. We can afford it. And it does not conflict with the other resolution that was passed.
It don't conflict with. Is
No.
that what you said?
No,
What did your city attorney just tell you, Mayor? Listen to the man. He went to law school. He just told you there would be a conflict because then you would have two.
but only if we fund the other one. And I just told you.
We
that-
already done funded it. You just
I
ain't
just,
paid it.
I just told you that you've already appropriated and we've already
There's-
spent more than we can pay to pay that.
Well, how you, wait.
Even
what's
if everything
your
you say
title,
is
sir?
true.
Mr. Turner, what's your title? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just being serious. You are the city treasurer, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you not just sit here and say that money has not been spent?
Yes.
Okay, I just.
Spent and obligated are two different things. We
They
still have to
just told
spend
you
it.
that if you obligated and it has not been approved in a contract, it has not
It's not
been
a-
paid.
First of all, you've already approved it. And secondly, it's not
We
a
have not,
contract.
we don't have no
The-
contract.
the-
We don't have nothing saying that we are
You-
obligated to pay Miss Sandy Rabs $300,000 for doing this.
Yes,
All
we
we
do.
did, we
Yes,
got a
we do.
contract?
It's not like yes, you approved.
Where's the contract? Who
let
we
me-
approved to pay?
Are you gonna let me answer?
Yeah.
Greg Roberts, who did the fire hydrants, y'all approved that. You appropriated it and you approved that agreement. And we did it. And we owe him money that is still in that account that needs to be paid, but it's already obligated and we will be sued if we don't pay it. And if we don't have the money to pay it, we will be sued.
How much we owe him?
Well, there's a list of all of these items. So if it exceeds $5,000 or $7,500, y'all have to approve it.
I asked you, when we hired this guy, did he have insurance? Because the city has paid out money for these water hydrants flooding folks' houses, that we have paid folks insurance premium. You ain't told the public about that, how you cut a check.
I'm not aware of what you're talking about. But my is y'all approved it. I don't know. You're making, again, you're making wild accusations that I don't, but to get back on the point, if you want our city employees to get a bonus tomorrow before Christmas, we can approve this. It's a simple resolution. We have the money. Ms. Ramsey is also part of the administration. We've all discussed it. We've all agreed we can do it. I haven't spoken to Mr. Valley about it because he's been busy, but I've heard what he said. No one from the municipal league has intimated to me that there's any conflict between doing those two things. As a matter of fact, if it turns out that there is any lost revenue that we can claim, it might be able to supplement or go back into the general fund or to supplement what we're doing to pay general fund back, essentially. I don't know if that's true. My point is it takes time to work those things out. And we have people that want to have this time for Christmas. And we can do it tomorrow.
Mayor, don't do that. Don't do that. Please do not do that.
But all you have to do is vote for it tonight. We can do it tomorrow.
Okay.
It's already been approved.
A week
Administration has already
2
approved
weeks
it.
ago, we voted for something that you are holding up these people money. You have been told numerous times, make sure you get this right, Mr. Bailey. You have been told numerous times that the money was there, that they have figured out who's going to get paid, how they gonna get paid and everything. Now you coming back saying, Mr. Turner is the treasurer. Now I might be wrong, but I remember voting for him. And he was elected city treasurer. He is sitting there right there tonight telling you that there's 900 and something odd dollars still in this account. He is telling you that we might have appropriated, but we appropriated that money last year or the first of this year. It's been sitting in the account, not doing anything, because you stated that you were not able to get contractors to do the work that was needed to be done because of the pandemic. You said that, not me. You said that that's why we had not contracted anybody to fix whatever was supposed to be fixed. Now, since we're trying to give initiatives to try to keep our employees, because to me, it's a slap in the face, because little do you know, sometimes you might need to quit sending out those texts that you send out, but to say that you don't think that they'll be paid before Christmas, maybe not even before New Year's, to me, it's like you're throwing up a brick wall. The man that's being paid to be the city attorney and the man that's being paid to be the city treasurer has given all of the facts that we need to make the decision. We made a decision, and just because you don't think that it's there, that's that man's job, is to tell us what's there. He has continuously told you that it was there and that it can be used for what it can be used for. So don't make it seem like we're trying not to give the city employees anything. It's you.
Well, thank you for that speech. Thank you for that speech. But we also have a city clerk who was elected, and she can show you the amounts we've obligated. I can show you.
Okay, you said obligated.
Well, you've appropriated it.
We appropriate.
And there's only so much money left to do it. But we do have it in general fund to do 1,500 and 1,000 if you will approve it. And we can
What is he talking about?
we can
obligated
continue to
someone.
discuss the Rescue Act.
What is he talking
But
about?
our checkbook balance is
We
not
got
the same
contract.
thing
Don't go
as
nowhere.
our checkbook balance is not the same thing as what our actual balance is.
No, well, my question, you told me to ask her. Ms. Ramsey, I'm asking you now, if both of y'all need to meet, you have to stop. If you don't have a quorum anymore. Okay, we have to-
Well, we've lost quorum, but if it's just restroom, then we'll try and hold on.
And can you take this off?
Mr.
Contract out there that says we owe Derek Turner $300,000 for doing such and such and such a thing.
Okay, I'll give you one example. I can give you several. You approved, we ordered a ditch digger to clean out the ditches. Now, I don't think there is anybody, if there's anybody in this city who thinks we don't need to dig out, clean out these ditches, I'd like them to call me, because every ditch in this city is long past due. And we haven't had the equipment to do it or the money. We obligated purchase of this equipment. We've ordered the purchase of this equipment. And when it gets here, we have to pay it. And if we don't pay it, then we will be sued. You've approved it. You already approved
We
it.
approved it, but did you contract? Do you have a contract that says that we have gone into agreement with Ms. Ford and Company to furnish a ditch digger at $250,000 by this date, and we're gonna pay you that money. Do you have that kind of contract, or is it just obligated for this?
You've approved the expenditure. There was no contract.
Oh, gee.
You both appropriation and expenditure. And when it gets here, which will be soon,
When is it
we have
supposed
to
to get
pay
here?
it. We have to pay it.
When, that's what I'm saying. Did they, I know you ain't just told them, well, whenever y'all can get it here, we'll hold your money till you get here.
Yeah,
That's what you
that's
told them.
how that works.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
I'm afraid it is.
Okay, that's the work, that's the way it works in your world.
No,
Because in the real world, it don't
that's
work
how it
like
works
that.
for the city, and that's how it works on our heavy equipment. And in that way, it's got to be appropriated. You have to approve the expenditure. You did both of those things. We ordered it. We committed to it. It is going to be here any week or day now. And when it does, we will be given an invoice based on our commitment to pay it. And we've already committed to pay it. If we don't pay it, then we're going to be in trouble. So where does $100,000 come from if we don't pay it?
We ordered a ditch digger.
I think the money was appropriated for, but I don't think the contract was ever approved.
There was no contract. There's not financed. The only contract would be if it was financed. The appropriation
Well, the
and the
appropriation-
purchase was approved.
The contract has to be a contract in order for you to make the purchase.
Bill of sale,
But that's a contract, that's expenditure over 5,000. There's appropriation,
but you approved it. The council approved it.
the council
Man,
appropriated the money, they didn't approve it, is what
Yeah.
they're saying.
No, they did. They approved the purchase of a ditch digger.
We appropriated the money, but we didn't approve.
Yes, it did.
What company you have given us an email, this staff has not sent out an email from some company saying, hey, the ditch digger is this price, this is what you're gonna pay for. We hadn't got that. Ms. Halber, you said anything about a ditch digger?
Miss Halber is not a member of this council.
That's what we get everything else from. She sent us all the email. She keeps us abreast of what's going on from your desk.
That's correct, but it's
So
not,
she ain't
it's
sent us
not,
nothing about no ditch digger.
it's not appropriate to make her part of a public meeting. That's not her role.
Well,
My role
have
is-
you sent me
and I'm
an
answering
email
your
that
question.
says
You
that
just
about a
don't-
ditch digger?
you
Have
just-
you sent me anything?
We didn't need an email. We had a meeting, a council meeting.
We had a meeting about a ditch
We had a Zoom meeting, yes, and we brought it up, and it's been appropriated. And it was approved by the council, and it was ordered by the city after that.
It's called a mini excavator.
Is that not true?
It's called a
Have we
mini
not approved and
excavator.
done everything
and
legally
they
appropriate?
They
And we're
passed,
gonna have we paid the
Wait a
bill?
minute, let her finish. Go ahead. Ms.
they passed an ordinance waiving bidding on a mini excavator hyphen ditch digger on September 21st. It's ordinance number 26
Thank you.
for $115,000.
So have we got?
No.
When we gonna get?
I don't know.
Any
That's
day,
the thing.
Has it been ordered?
Has it
any
been
day
ordered?
now, but we already obligated,
It's been
These
ordered.
yes.
So,
What the order form is?
Okay. She said you all have an ordinance. The ordinance would be sufficient to go forward with that. That's appropriate. What about the other things?
Well, I've already talked,
That
some,
clerk,
but-
she told us that.
but there's a list. I thought I mailed it out to you. It shows $287,000 balance, but it doesn't include the ditch digger. I
So
call
the
it.
287, because see, you confused me.
So it's
The
about,
ditch digger is
it's-
coming out of what fund, Ms. Brown?
The American Rescue money.
And he's saying it's only how much left in, and there, Mr. Turner says 900 and,
that's a checkbook balance. It's the difference between when you have bills that are already obligated or checks already written coming out of the account versus what your checkbook account balance
Yeah,
says
I
when you
know,
go to ATM
I
machine.
know, I know that. I know
That's
that.
the difference. Nobody is telling you anything that's not true. It's just that it's being interpreted differently. All I'm saying is we can argue about that. We can continue to argue about
So
it.
you saying you're not gonna pay what we paid?
I'm saying that right now you can approve
No,
1,500 and 1,000, and we can give those out tomorrow. And we can continue to talk about this if you want to,
I
but
just
you
asked
have to have the money
I
to
asked you-
pay it.
I asked you a question. So you saying that you're not gonna pay what we approved?
I told, what I'm telling you is that we don't have the money because
I'm asking you, are you saying that you're not gonna pay what we have approved that Mr. Turner?
I know you're paying political games.
No,
Ms.
I'm
Carter.
not. I'm asking a
But-
question. That's what you're doing.
But the
That's what you're
bottom
doing.
line is you appropriated this money and you approved the appropriations and the purchases. And now after doing that, you want to reappropriate money we no longer have. And it's against the law for me to spend money we don't have.
You've
That's
been
against the
doing
law.
it
And it's
all
not
year.
against the law if Derek wants to do it, or Mr. Valley wants to do it, or if anybody else wants to do it, but it's against the law if I do it.
But
And
it's
if
not
we- no,
against the
ma'am,
law
if
for
we
you.
don't have the money, I cannot spend it. It's
Well, all
against
I'm
the
asking-
law.
Okay, you, like, I'm not gonna get loud.
We
like
do
you're
not
getting-
have the money.
We're
It's
not.
already
Can I
been
talk now? Can I
obligated.
talk
You've
now?
been talking.
You
I'm
talking
asking
too.
you to approve
I'm
money
not-
we do have for our city employees tonight. And then if you want to keep arguing about this, we
I haven't
can.
argued about nothing
We
else
can
about something
continue
I
to
don't know
talk about it. But in the meantime, we have money in the general fund for and we can do that now.
Is that legal?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
Yes.
Mr. Attorney, Mr. Mayor, can you answer this question? If they come back and in this fund, they come back and say, hey, we don't approve, we don't consider this as a, under this,
Appropriate expense.
appropriation. What if they said that they don't think this, we should have bought this machine or whatever, this digital? What if they said that, will the city have to pay this money back?
Certainly, any expenses that all expenses will be audited, and we'd have to pay back anything that's not appropriate. The question, Mr. Turner is saying that it was 900 some thousand. Mr. Mayor is saying that's a bank balance, not an actual balance. I guess the clerk would know the question about the obligation. The mayor is correct in the sense of he can't spend money he doesn't have. The question would be, what did the record say has been actually obligated by the city council approving, not appropriated, but obligated? You gave an example of 115,000. Is there any more obligations that came out of that?
The only other one I can tell from my list here is the articulating. You did buy that. You
How
had
much
an
was that?
ordinance 17. I want to say 400,000.
Has it been paid?
So that,
I hadn't got any bills yet, no.
so you said 400,000?
About 400,000.
So that's
I have
fi-
to go look at my list. And say.
That's $515,000 that you all have.
And you got,
I mean, let-
wait a minute, you got a long list here of smaller items that add up. You got well, like I said, the water hydrant thing appropriated, approved by the council out of the American Rescue Act money, and the project's been done, he's waiting payment out of that account. And that check just hasn't come through yet. Actually, the check, I believe, has actually been sent. It just hadn't come through and didn't show up on that balance yet, but it's coming. We have a broadband project that we just did. We just deployed on Cherry Street. But it's under $5,000, but you appropriated it. I'm not sure if it's been paid or not. It's not a lot of money, but these things all add up. And it's already been appropriated and obligated. The other money, the 1,500,000, has not been. You can do that. I have committed publicly that I'll sign and hand to them tomorrow on our behalf and on your behalf. We have the money. We don't have to worry about the auditors. We don't have to pay anything back. And in the meantime, we can continue to discuss the Rescue Act. That's fine with me. But why not just do both? I don't understand why there would be a problem with at least doing the 1,500 to 1,000 now. Well, but I can't spend money we don't
I
have.
understand that, Mayor. I'm not illiterate. I know. I thought they already had a.
We already have one. My thing is this.
And who ordered that one? Who ordered that one?
I mean, basically, I did. Yeah, I think digging out our ditches, if we have one, if we have one, they haven't been using it. And there's a ditch digging attachment. And it needs to be devoted and dedicated to store for it to be eligible for this money. So I have sat in on some Zoom meetings, by the way, and I have done some homework and I've spoken to them a lot. I'm not saying that I know as much as everybody else, but I do know a lot about it. And I'm going to tell you right now, and you all know, I don't have to tell you this, every single ditch in this city needs to be scoured out and dug out. Every single one of them. Now, if you want to give that money that we've already obligated to employees because it's a political thing, you feel. Because we don't have,
Nothing to do with
because I'm giving you the option to give the money.
This has, on Wanda Crockett's behalf, this has nothing to do with politics. I think these people who actually keep the city running, those people who are out there picking up my garbage, come to see about my water leaks, who come to my rescue when something is going wrong, who goes to the place and put out the fires. I think they deserve this. I think that they deserve this because of the work that they put in. And as Mr. Franklin earlier stated, that the whole pandemic, this city did not shut down. My garbage did not miss getting picked up one time. It's been picked up more times now than it did. I didn't miss a garbage pickup in the pandemic. I didn't miss my water in the pandemic. But now that it's come to this, but you don't sit up and talk about how you pay people to go do stuff that's already been, the city employees have to do, but they don't get the extra money for. Like going down to the Humane Society and cleaning it up. You pay the man some extra money, like going over to the river park and they go over there and clean up the river park, but then you pay somebody else to go over there and do the same thing. Don't try to make it seem that it's political. I sit on the same, it's been said that I sit at this table and get rich. They need to get a God like mine and then they won't have to worry about that. It does not make me a difference. And I'm saying this publicly. If I don't get a red cent out of it, I just think that the employees deserve better. It's, you sit up, the people that you want to have something, you're paying a man right now 3 jobs that he's not doing one of them. You're paying him for 3 jobs because that's your friend. But these other people who really out there doing work, they're not being appreciated. They're not getting anything out of it. And you sit up here and say that we're trying to make this political. No, sir, I'm not. Now, I cannot speak for anybody else, but I'm speaking from Wanda Crockett, Wanda Lakota Crockett, L-A-C-O-T-H-A. I'm speaking for her. I think that they deserve it. And to sit up here and try to come up, we had a lengthy discussion about the water. Ms. Monica asked you continuously over and over and over in this same meeting that it came up. You did not bring any of this stuff back about where the money was going to be obligated or where it was going until it came up that you put out that Mr. Franklin had an ordinance that he wanted to pass a resolution to give, an ordinance to give the city employees who deserved it incentives to let them know that we appreciate them. People who are being paid, like you said, and Mr. Jeff, this is nothing against you. Like you said, that Mr. Jeff already has a decent salary for Helena-West, but you'll come to the table and ask us to give him extra money. And the man that's out there picking up my garbage daily, when we bring that to the table, there's always a discussion that we can't. The man that's come to your house when you call the police, they haven't had a decent raise, and I don't know long, but that can always be put on the back burner. And you sit up here and say, this is political. No, this is my heart.
Well, that's really good. That's really good speech, except first of all, you can't pay money you don't have. Secondly, we gave them a raise last year. It's proposed in the budget this year. When I became mayor, the city was worse than broke, and we were at the first stage of being taken over. And that's exactly where we're going to head if we start trying to spend money we don't have. Now, I agree that our city employees are important. And if you do it, we can give them $1,500 and $1,000 tomorrow. All you have to do is approve it. And we can still, well, and I'm not saying we can't still do the other. I'm just saying we can do that for sure, and we can do it tomorrow.
Mr. Mayor.
That's all. I'm asking on behalf of the city employees you just spoke eloquently about. I'm asking you to approve $1,500 and $1,000 tonight, and we can still discuss all this other stuff and see if we can't come to some other resolution, but we don't have the money to spend. We do have it to do the $1,500 and $1,000. It was already appropriated. It was already approved by the council. We can't just, why not 10,000? Why not 100,000? They deserve that too, but we don't have it. So, and I can't by law spend money we don't have. So please approve the $1,500, $1,000 bonus for our employees. Then we'll continue this discussion. And if we can come to some other agreement that shows that we have enough to do it, we'll try to work something out. But in the meantime, let's do $1,500 and $1,000 that we know we can do.
Mr. Bell told you that you didn't need to do that. Will you listen to it?
But we can do it. And-
Okay, you said out your mouth that you are not an attorney. He just told you that if you do that and by coming out of two separate funds, you're gonna have two things on the table, where if it comes back and these people start to sue us or whatever, then we still have to pay the 5,000 plus you done gave me 1,500. Am I right, Mr. Bell?
I said that's potentially what may happen. Now, as it relates to, I don't know the appropriation, I don't know what the city treasurer and the city clerk have done, looked at about the obligations. I defer to them on the obligations. It is what it is at this point. The question that I would simply ask, how much is left, Mayor, are you saying is left in the pandemic money?
Less than $200,000 according to the city clerk's list of our obligations already appropriated, approved by the council, or otherwise legally obligated. And so I cannot, nobody else in this room goes to jail for doing this but me. I cannot write checks for money that doesn't exist. We have the money for the 1,500 and 1,000. It's a sacrifice, but we can do it. And we don't have to worry about all these other things. We can do it tomorrow. We can still discuss all of this other stuff. I'm not against discussing the rest of it.
I don't have it in front of me, no. I'll have
This-
to go back and see which ordinances we have already passed to buy the stuff.
On September 7th, you adopted American Rescue.
Oh,
Yeah.
there-
American Rescue Act Resolution Number 12 was adopted on September 7th, 2021 by the city council that obligated 90% of the funds for water, sewer, and department and 10% for broadband Wi-Fi. It was unanimously adopted.
We voted. on
That was September 7th.
Yeah.
You've approved the minutes.
So wait a minute, so is the 500,000 that we spent on the west side for the water department?
Which, yes.
But see, the thing of it is that you're not understanding, Mr. Mayor, that if the money that you appropriated, if
No,
this,
you appropriated.
I mean,
didn't
the money
appropriate.
that, the money,
Let's pause for a second. 90-10 can always be amended. The question is, what is obligated? A budget is a budget, an appropriation, they can always be amended. The question on the table is what is obligated? What is the council approved
Or the
that was
mayor.
obligated? Not appropriated, but obligated. You've already appropriated some money.
And the mayor can't obligate the city under $5,000 as long as it's been appropriated. Yes or no?
That's correct.
That's correct.
I'm not
And
disagreeing
so
with
I'm
you.
trying
Mayor.
to, what
I'm just trying to get clarity.
And I'm trying
You
to.
interrupted me.
I'm trying to get
You
clarity.
interrupted me.
Well, you've interrupted me too. I'm
Mayor, I
trying to
have
get,
not
I'm trying to
interrupted
get clarity.
He the lawyer.
You're talking over me.
You talking over
I'm
Mr.
I'm
Bell?
trying to make the point.
He was
that
too.
Obligated includes contracts. It includes things under 5,000 as long as it's been appropriated. And it was appropriated in September.
And
So that's
Mayor,
all I'm saying.
You interrupted me. I was asking the city clerk those specific questions. I'm not arguing with you. I am simply trying to establish what is obligated. The city, let's pause.
And it's got 200, it does not
Mayor,
have, it does
Mayor,
not have. the
I wasn't
ditch.
finished talking.
It does not, we don't have all nine. We don't have on here, we don't have the ditch which on here. It's less than $200,000.
I'm done talking. I'm not trying to disrespect you.
Well, I feel like you are.
Now, all I asked was a question. I have not raised my voice for anything towards you.
I'm gonna stay here as long as we have a quorum because I'd like to see us approve the $1,500,000 bond or one-time payment
Okay.
for
Okay.
our city employees, all of our city
Okay.
employees, full-time,
Okay.
part-time,
Okay, let me say this.
that we know we have and that we can afford.
You've said that.
And we can continue to
You-
discuss all this other stuff.
Yeah, you said that, but let me say this. Let me say, I try not to disrespect nobody. I've been nice to you or whatever, but it's like for you to disrespect a pastor, you disrespect a pastor and our city attorney. I just think that the treasurer, the city attorney have given you the best advice. It's like you want to pay your friends. You want to help your friends. Like you said, that's what I was doing. I don't, let me tell you something. God has been good to me. I got jobs. I go to work. I've been to work independent and the state made sure that, but the way you treat these employees and trying to like it's us, I don't need nothing from you or nobody else, but I'm sick and tired of every time it don't go your way, you get mad like a little kid and throw a temper tantrum. But the way you treat your employees, it shows. You gonna see what you're doing. You trying to, like you telling Miss Crockett that she a political speech. You try to pay your political people. Look around you and look at all the people you've hired from the black churches. Look at some of the folks you got around you that you've
And
gave
who-
them jobs.
who is
You
it?
know who it is.
Who? What's
You've
your
helped.
name?
You've helped. That's what you're
Why
doing.
don't you name? Who?
What you name them? I didn't hire. This is all you've been doing since you've been here. You trying to secure an election. I don't have to be city council. I don't have to be nothing. I'm just trying to make sure the city is better. All this you want to go back and forth, but you disrespected the city attorney.
Have you
Hey.
ever disrespected B?
Who?
Have you ever disrespected B?
Who is B? I don't know by name
Have
B.
you ever disrespected me?
Who is me? Someone Sandy? I treated Sandy good ever since you
Have
been
you?
here.
I didn't ask you about Sandy. I
Who?
asked you about me.
Have
ever
you ever disrespected me?
I don't know.
Well, then I got amnesia too.
I'm asking you
I-
a question. You answer it.
Have I disrespected you?
If you care so much about city employees, why wouldn't you approve the $1,500,000?
Why don't you keep paying the folks you've been paying? Because the River Park and all this other stuff. You paying your friends.
The River Park is part of the city.
I like you, Kevin.
Public service announcement and
Right.
churches, PSAs.
Yeah, he paid.
The city council approved it.
No, we didn't.
We've done,
We didn't do that. He just been
I'll
saying
read
this money like it's
the
his.
Minutes for you. If you need- if
we
you need.
approved paying, doing a public service announcement campaign to get vaccinated, to pay the newspaper and radio stations to run PSAs and pass out flyers to
Yeah, I know
people.
we approved something for that.
That's what we did. So that's an obligation. I don't know if they're all paid or not.
Say,
But-
can you look at this list and tell what's been paid and what can't
I'll have to look it up tomorrow.
But whether it's been paid or not, if it's obligated,
be? No,
we're required as a city to pay it.
If I may, I stepped out for a minute. I'm about to leave the meeting. It has nothing to do with anything that was said tonight. I have a deadline where I have to get something finished tonight. We've been meeting for quite some time and you all are beating this issue around. So it has nothing to do with the mayor's remarks or any other remarks that's been made. You need to bring this issue to a resolution, but I have to get something done. It's 8:30. We've been here till 6 o'clock. Either you're gonna do it or you're not gonna do it.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
stay here as long as we have a quorum and ask you to approve this one-time payment for city employees that we can afford and that we can do right now. And we can do it for everybody, whether they make 65,000 or 67,000 or not. We can do it if they work from home. We can do it if they use Zoom. We can do it if they were essential or non-essential. Unlike the cares, unlike the.
can I ask a
pandemic
question?
time. Sure.
When I walked by Ms. Crockett, she asked me, if we do this, would there be a second obligation? I say, yes, there's been appropriation that's been done. One of the issues that is looking, one of the issues that Mr. Turner had discussed with me a while ago was when he was sitting through Zoom meetings, what equipment was approved, what equipment was not approved, what we could order it, and et cetera, and what they were covered by. Mr. Franklin asked a question earlier about if these obligations were not permissible under the American Rescue Act, whether they would be, we'd have to reimburse them. I have not looked at the appropriations as to whether they would fit within the definitions of the American Rescue Act and whether we would have to reimburse those. I'm talking specifically about the ditch digging equipment. I can remember some language from the municipal league in one of our city attorneys meetings where they were talking about be careful about the ditch digging equipment, et cetera. But I can't tell you what the language was. And so I don't want to cause confusion or anything like that. I think that the mayor makes a salient point that we have to look at what's appropriate and what's obligated. And Mr. Turner and Ms. Ramsey can better tell you what's obligated than I can tonight. But as it relates to it, if you're doing appropriation, this is a second appropriation. to answer Ms. Crockett's question. It is a second appropriation. It's from different funds. It's for a different thing. The mayor has, he has authority to spend up to $5,000 from the previous appropriation. If he disputes part of it, if he says this legal defense would be that, hey, I can't pay because I don't have the funds appropriated, the funds that are appropriated, he still has the legal authority to pay those because y'all already appropriated. This is a separate appropriation where he's saying he's not going to pay that one because he doesn't believe he has the money. That's his position that he's taken. He said that based on the obligation he sincerely believes he has, he's not going to make the payment, is what he's saying. As it relates to this, it's a separate appropriation from a separate account, and we'd have to resolve the issue later. But you would have two appropriations, one for 5,000, one for the 1,500 and 1,000. This is done on a different formula. The mayor has a different formula. It's for 1,000 for part-time non-elected officials, 1,000 for non-first responders, and 1,500 for first responders. If I took the documents out, but if that's, I believe that's an accurate statement of what he's asking for. And he said he'll pay that tomorrow if y'all do it. At this point, what he's saying is, because he believes he doesn't have the money, he's not going to pay the other one, but he will pay this if you all appropriate the money. The issue is, does that make the two appropriations? Yes, to make it two appropriations, but his heel that he says he's going to stand on is, I don't have the money to pay the other one, and therefore I don't have the legal obligation to pay it, in addition to the fact that he is an appropriation and the mayor doesn't have to spend it because it's appropriated. Those are the positions he stated clearly tonight, and that's position I think he's going to stand on going forward.
Okay, can I ask this?
Well
question?
said.
Yes.
Can we get, Sandy, Ms. Rams, I'm sorry. Can we get something showing what has been obligated, not appropriated, right? Because if it's appropriated, you can change the appropriation, but if it's been obligated, you're obligated to pay that, right?
Once the council appropriated, now there's the other thing the mayor's correct about.
If
Once you appropriate it, he can spend up to $5,000 if you've appropriated. As long as it's not a serial contract, he can spend up to $5,000.
But, okay, but if it's a serious contract and they come back, we might be eligible to have to pay that back too. But anyway, my question is, can we get something that's showing what has been obligated, not appropriated? And then if on the things where I see these $5,000, I thought it was up to $5,000.
It's up to $5,000.
So if he spent $5,000, that's over his spending limit.
I think it's $5,001.
Oh, okay. I'm just asking questions, not trying to start. I just need some clarity because for some reason.
Unless it's been approved. If it's been approved by the council, I can do that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Overspending would be $5,001. I think it's up to $5,000.
I have a question. Did you say how much the total was for this resolution?
It's 191,000.
You said 200 something.
Well, I said approximately 200. And two, it could change a dollar here, $191,500.
Okay, so Mayor, how much money you saying we got in what's the account I'm trying to, general funds that can be paid to use to pay whatever you're,
We have over $200,000.
and you said how much money we got left?
Approximately $200,000 that could be budgeted for this. And
Okay.
specifically, it's $191,500.
Okay, but
according to the way we calculate it.
second question, how much did you say we had left after your appropriations from the pandemic money?
Less than 200,000.
You said more than 200,000.
That's without the, I keep calling it the ditch digger, but it's the mini excavator. Once you subtract that, it's around 100.
It's around a what?
100,000.
I don't understand what y'all saying. 87,000 right
So,
here.
so it'd be approximately 180,000 then, because the ditch digger's not on that list.
It's not on this, and it's not in order.
It should,
We
it should,
already have one.
it's just an omission. It ought to be on that list. That's the reason I'm telling you
I'll
about it.
send you the new list in the morning.
So approximately 180 something.
What is,
And then there.
but all of this money couldn't come out, all this stuff that's on here, it couldn't come out of CARES Act money, could it?
Yeah, because it's certain things. can be
That's what I'm asking.
I'm seeing.
You mean rescue act?
Rescue Act,
Yeah, 'cause-
CARE, whatever, all of this stuff on this list could be paid out of that money. Because I
ma'am.
thought it was certain things that it had to be used for, and I'm seeing some things that don't, like two sweet streakers. That's not,
Those are specifically allowed by name in the Rescue Act. Yes, they are. Isn't that true, Mr. Turner? Are street sweepers specifically approved in the Rescue Act? Yes, the answer was yes.
so
The 350 truck that we picked out, right? That right here that we paid, that F-350, right? That truck's supposed to be where? In the water department, am I correct?
I'm not sure where it's supposed to be. I'm not sure
no,
where
I'm
it's
talking if it was bought with the
They
CARES Act.
said we bought this money, it had to be in the water department. And that's why we bought it, because it was supposed to be in the water department, but you said that we was gonna pull an asphalt machine. But Ms. Ramsey, you remember that they said the only way we could spend that money, it had to pertain to water sewer. That truck's supposed to be in the water department. That's why we bought it, but the mayor decided to use the truck to pull the asphalt machine. Am I correct, Mr. Turner? That machine was supposed, that F-350 was supposed to go to the water department. I made the motion because it's supposed to go to the water department. And the mayor said we can use it, but we have to say it's been 90% in the water department. Do anybody remember that? That F-350 we bought was supposed to be 90% of its time at the water department, and it's been 90% of the time, it's been 100% of the time at street and sanitation. So that's been got we want to pay back because it's supposed to be in the water department. You know that this is Patrick. I remember this. I remember. That's
Is that a question or a statement?
that's the truth. That's
So,
what we did.
Mr. Patterson, are we, does the water department dig holes that have to be filled? And have we been filling them with cement? All right. And would it be cheaper to use the asphalt machine to do that, especially on asphalt? All right, but we haven't been doing that, have we? No, we've been using cement. And so, yes, that it is the correct statement to say. Now, we haven't had that truck for long because it took us a long time to get it because of the supply demand things. But I will say this, Mr. Franklin. If Municipal League or anybody else tells me there's a 90% documentation on that truck, then we can make sure that's done correctly. But we haven't had it very long.
I got that from your
How long we been had it?
And I'm not saying it's not accurate. I'm just telling you that documentation needs to be done if it's not been. Now, the documentation on the use of the truck. The use of the truck. I'm not playing games. I'm telling you the truth.
The city attorney and treasurer have told you what's best for this, what's best, and you think that I'm not gonna play no game with you or nobody else. Hey, I move with adjourn. Cause we wasting time arguing with somebody who won't. If it's not Kevin Smith's way, it's nowhere. But I'm not one of your employees, so you can't talk to me like top them. I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna tell you like this. At this point, you don't care nothing about the employees.
I'm trying to give them a bonus or a Christmas payment
How much
tomorrow.
did you pay? They gotta cut the roof park off some more.
We have contractors that do things all over the city.
Yeah, but you using this money.
And we
right now.
have for years. But let me tell you something. Y'all approved appropriation to,
I'm to appropriate it for
all I'm asking you to do is to do 1,500 to 1,000 for employees now. So that we can do that tomorrow.
You think you can give me you can get us that information about what, after all of these appropriations, not appropriations, after all of these obligations that we have, do you know how soon you can get that so that we can get between you and Mr. Turner, so that we can know exactly how much money is left that we might can use for something? Because like I said before, and the mayor can preach to the cows come home saying that this is political. Anybody that know me, this is not political. See, because I was one of them people that need that money. I was one of them people that worked like a slave and was underpaid. The Lord done blessed me, I got favor. So don't try to say that it's political, because it's not, because I really believe that these people deserve this. And to sit up here and to go back and forth, and then you come up with what you think they need, you ain't did no research on what was left in the money. You just come and throw us something saying this is what's been appropriated. You started the meeting saying it was over $200,000 left in the pandemic money. Now you saying it ain't but $100,000. All I'm asking for is some clarity so that we can give these people what they deserve. That's all I'm asking
Well,
for. And on that note, I would like to
give
also
you-
add that once we get this, I would ask that the mayor call a special call meeting so that, Mr. Turner, that you get the numbers together with whatever money we have to see what we can actually give to the employees, to whoever that, and that you would call a special call meeting. So, and don't call it at 3 o'clock in the evening when people at work, call it at 5 o'clock. Well, if you call it don't call it at the 6 to 9 like you call your other meeting to talk with Kevin Smith, but in the morning, 6 to 9 in the morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Let me just ask you a question. Mr. Turner, did you go over with Ms. Ramsey and I the numbers and how much it would cost to do not a bonus, but a employee payment?
I'm talking, I
For-
want to know.
did-
what we
no,
can do
I'm-
out of
I'm
the
asking-
out of
you're
the
asking him-
CARES Act money. I'm
he's
not
asking-
asking about general.
This is
general-
actually, this does originally come from CARES
I'm not
Act.
talking about. the
My
general-
question is, did Mr. Turner work with us on these numbers or not? He's already done that. Why would we have another meeting when we can do it right now?
No, but we don't know.
We're
that.
here
I
right
don't know-
now.
I don't know that. I don't have enough information.
They just gave it to you.
No, that,
We
no, they
just gave
didn't.
it to you.
They gave me a sheet of paper. They don't, that's right.
What's the
This
difference
paper
between,
just shows that it's
it's
been,
all on a sheet of paper.
it has not been obligated. That's what I'm trying to
So,
find out. I
That's,
just
that's
need
great.
clear
And,
numbers
and we
of
can continue
Ms.
to do
Ramsey.
that. And we can continue to have, we can continue to do all of those things.
Ms. Ramsey,
But if you approve this resolution, we can also
Ms.
give them
Ramsey.
a Christmas or
I want to make sure
Christmas
that they get
payment.
as much as we're able to
Now.
give them. I don't want to give them $1,500 and we were able to give them 3,000.
So if,
That's what I'm saying.
so why wouldn't you pass the resolution
No,
and
because-
continue to do? the other?
Because I have sit at this table for the last 6 and 7 years, and once you pass something, it never seems to make it back to this table, because whoever is sitting at the head of the table always comes up with another excuse why if we leave that other $1,500 out there that they might have could have got, when they come back again, where we had to pay Jupiter because they sent a truck from Mars. So I want to be, if Ms. Ramsey has said that she can get us these numbers, Mr. Turner has
She
said.
just gave you the numbers.
I'm
Mr.
talking-
Turner
Ms.
has given,
Ramsey, Can you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
we've already given you the numbers.
No. Yeah. Because what you're sitting up and telling me now, I've got 3 different numbers tonight.
You got the number on how much the payment in the resolution, how much that would cost.
No, I'm not talking about
You
that. I'm talking about how much
you have
money we
a
got.
list of the obligations made.
Are
except
they
for-
obligated or
one
are they
omission.
just appropriated? That's
and
my
you have the
question.
minutes of when it was appropriate.
Okay, there, you have
that
not,
now.
you have not listened to these people
We
that
have a
been.
quorum. We
I
have
have to go
some
to the
employees
bathroom.
that need the
Don't
money.
try to make it seem like
We have
you
city
trying to
employees
give
that
us
need
something
money.
because you ain't.
There is
Because if you trying to give
nothing
something, you'd wrote
There's
them checks,
nothing
signed them
mutually,
checks for $5,000.
Well,
there's
Mr.
nothing mutually exclusive about doing this and continuing to have this other discussion. All I'm asking you to do is do what we know we can do, that
Okay,
our
but-
administration agrees we can do,
But
and we can do tonight,
Okay,
while we're
Mr.
here
Turner,
and it's
But-
legal.
Ramsey, y'all
And
said-
then we can continue
on.
to discuss this,
Okay.
and we'll have a special meeting again on this.
Okay, wait a minute, let
So
me
why
say
not
this.
do both?
Wait a minute, let me ask
Why
this
not do
question.
both?
You're not listening to what your city attorney is. I am, because that's gonna cause us another problem, that we have appropriated something. And he's just told you that's two different appropriations because they're coming out of two funds. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but you think Mr. Valley don't know what he's talking about, but I know he do. But Ms. Ramsey and Mr. Turner, all I'm asking is, as soon as humanly possible, if you can tell us what's obligated and what's been appropriated, and then tell us what's left and what we should be able to pay pay us, because like I said, I don't want to give, vote on this $1,500 where you got it all, and you got it, the language and all this stuff where some people ain't gonna get this and get that, but I just want to know what we are able to pay with, after all of our obligations, not appropriations. And if Mr. Valley, I heard Mr. Valley said that if it was appropriated and we approved a ordinance, it's almost like we're obligated, but I just want to know what is left and that we can be able to give our city employees. I think the mayor's basically saying that he don't want to come back and have no special call meeting. Y'all, I know y'all went over the numbers, but did y'all go over the numbers with the questions that I'm asking? That y'all to find out what was obligated, not just to say what was appropriated. That's what I'm asking. That's all I'm asking.
Can you add to that? Can you add to that? Because number one, the excavator is not something that it may not be approved.
Can I get a copy of that showing?
Right, because we have to show that what can be bought, what can this money be spent on, and make sure that, like Ms. Crockett is saying, because we may appropriate it, but it may not fall up under the guidelines that you're spending. Am I right, Mr. Turner? Because on the Zoom call, tell the public, what did they say this money could be spent on? The truck is at the city street and sanitation department. It said water, sewer, broadband, and premium pay. Am I correct? The excavator you're talking about, it goes to the landfill. It's not going to Mr. Patterson department. That truck that you bought, it's not going to Mr. Patterson department. That's 2 strikes right there. Am I correct, Mr. Turner? Yeah, I mean, but you do know what the paper said, that it has to be for water, sewer,
Yes.
and broadband. Mr. Patterson, wait a minute, and stormwater, but all that comes up under Mr. Patterson. And
I'm telling him the
it comes
truth.
up under
I'm answering
Mr.
his
Patterson's
question. I'm not
department.
lying to anybody.
No, yes, it does.
Stormwater doesn't come.
Well, what
Stormwater come under the water department?
Well, what is going to your ditches? And okay, so you see, that's the thing. See, I'm not here to argue. Go back to you, Mr.
Yes,
Turner.
you are.
Well, then guess
Exactly
what?
why
Well,
you're
guess
here.
what? Get used to it,
That's why you.
Mr. Turner. This when you be specific. That F-350 that's put in asphalt machine is not in Mr. Patterson's department. Mr. Patterson, is that in your department? I'm asking for you. No, it's right.
I don't know if he says it's not. I don't know. I don't. keep
I know
up
what
with-
it is,
okay.
because every other way you go home, you see the street and sanitation department pulling it. Then that's what you were supposed to, what you try to do, you trying to fault the federal government because you said that you was gonna buy it and use it for the street department. The water department has never drove the truck. Mr. Patterson has never seen the truck unless he see it passing, putting the asphalt truck. Look on the back of it right now. Ain't no water equipment. It's a bucket with some water on the back of it that they pulling around the city. See, that's the thing.
Right.
You know, that truck, I saw them the other day no, Miss Crockett, they had a rake digging around the curve, getting dirt up with that brand new thing on somebody's private property. That's what it was. See,
We voted, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mr. When we voted to purchase the excavator, who brought that to the table?
I did.
No?
I think cleaning our
Which-
ditches out is probably the biggest reason we have such a stormwater runoff and sewer backup is because our stormwater goes into our sewer joints. That is specifically mentioned in the rescue act, isn't it?
There's not,
Isn't it, Mr.
I don't know
Scott?
of any
Stormwater.
equipment.
I'm asking the question. Yes, and it causes sewer backup, which has created violations all over the country. That's why they put it in there. And the reason I asked for it is so that we could finally address the ditches and the stormwater that goes into our sewers and backs them up. And in order to do that, we have to have a dedicated excavator with a ditch digging attachment.
I'm not
And
saying
that is, that, I didn't ask you. That is, I'm answering Ms. Davis's question. That is why I brought it before the council, and it is why you approved it.
But Mayor, I must have been absent on that meeting because I don't know of many times that you have brought equipment to the table.
I have many times, lots of
Not
times.
equipment.
In fact,
You-
all of our heavy
you'll say
equipment.
Mr. Jones, or you'll say somebody from the landfill or somebody from the water department. But I don't know of many times that you brought equipment, expensive equipment to the table.
All of
Not
our
for you, not
equipment
with
has
your-
come before the council.
No, I
No,
didn't.
you're not
No,
listening
he
to the
heard
question.
me.
She said that
Okay.
you don't usually make the recommendation, you usually take the recommendation of whoever the department head is. But you're saying that you made this recommendation, so
I must have
did
been
you
absent.
read the thing and say, well, we can use this for this? And,
Yes.
okay, so
And-
you didn't
and I-
ask.
And I make every recommendation on equipment,
But
but-
it's always
but
attached to
because-
a department head.
and that's because I'm not always an expert. And if I were sitting in your shoes, I would want to know what somebody that knows more than the mayor might know. And that is why I recommended it, is because my department heads recommended it, or an engineer or some other official said we needed it. But every piece of heavy equipment has come before the council. I've recommended it and introduced, in some cases, our department heads to explain why we need it. And the reason I asked them to come to the meeting, recognized them about it, is because either department head came to me and said we needed it, or I thought we needed it and talked to them about it, or an engineer or some other federal state requirement in case of the landfill. So those, I'm not exactly sure where that comes from, but every single piece of heavy equipment has come for this council because they've all been over $5,000.
It was your suggestion, and you brought it to the table, and I don't know if many times I've said at the table once again, where you have brought something, you'll say, well, it's a department head or Mr. Williams or Mr. Jones or somebody, not you. I want, hey.
Well,
guys, I want a
now you
police
know of
excavator.
one example at least. I'd say there are probably others, but now you know of one. And I might have asked the department head to talk about that. I don't remember
So
really
you just using their name, that's what you're saying?
using what name.
Never mind. What
I-
are we
I'm
gonna
not
do?
exactly
Because it's
sure.
almost
I got
9
one more
o'clock.
question.
I'm telling you right now that we need a ditch digger to dig out these ditches
I
and to deal
didn't
with our
say- I didn't
stormwater.
say we didn't
And
need a,
y'all
uh,
approved it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Let's get past that.
And I'm glad you did. I thanked you
We
for
got
it.
an
And
excavator.
now I just want to be able to
Got an
pay for it.
excavator.
That truck, that F-350, can y'all tell me when we voted on that, what department it was supposed to be in? Cause I don't need to be wrote up in the paper saying that I voted for a truck to go to the water department and they send it to the street sanitation. I can tell you, cause the.
I just asked for that information, Ms. Ramsey, along with that other information I asked for.
We can be, he asked for, cause he tried to, because the reason why the mayor asked for, they said that, he said that we can get a truck. He said, we can get a truck. He said, but it has to, clearly we have to use it 90% for the water department. We can use this money. And I said, Mayor, we don't get rid of it, but we gonna let it stay at the water department. When they bought the truck, the water department hadn't seen it. I'm pretty sure Derek, Miss Sandy, y'all remember that because it was on a Zoom call. I can tell you where I was. I was out by the hospital, and that's when I showed them that ditch out there by the hospital where that we paid folks some money to fix the ditch, and it looked like it's gonna do the same thing again. But that's where we were. And the mayor said, if we buy a truck, we got some, because remember, Ms. Crocker, you said, how we got a machine that we can't pull? That's when this money came
Well,
about.
I thought when it came up, then that's, that we needed a hot box because we were filling the streets with concrete. We said that they weren't supposed to be used. And then ordered to get the hot box and then realized.
You're right.
I don't want 2,000.
And that's when we came up with this slick stuff, buying this truck. It was supposed to go to Mr. Patterson's department and it didn't, but it's out there at the street sanitation department. So guess what? That's $50,000 now. You need to try to find out where you gonna come up with it from. because-
Okay, all right. Let me ask you this question. All the questions you're asking, because you're an expert on the Rescue Act. What happens if we pay people $5,000 and they come back and say we didn't do it correctly? What happened? I'm asking you first.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you.
What happens?
Listen to your city attorney.
What happens?
The city attorney get to answer that question. I didn't go to school.
So you don't know the answer.
I didn't go, you don't either.
You just said-
Apparently you were listening to somebody.
You
who-
just said we'd have to
you got
pay
the
it back.
best treasure that we never had. You got the best city attorney we ever had, but only thing you wanna do, you wanna do what you wanna do. If they give me some advice, Mr. Turner, do I take your advice? I take Mr. Valley's advice. Your thing is, you know what, man, go ahead. Whatever you wanna do, do it. Because
In other words, if
We call a special call meeting so that we can try to,
we ain't gotta call one.
Do you
Let's just
know-
schedule one for tomorrow.
no, she can't get us that. She can't get us that information. When can you get us that? Y'all get us that.
Is
Yes.
it dump truck for the water department?
No.
it's what it's used for.
No,
And if we want to talk about the American, let me add, I'll tell you what, let's have a compromise. The municipal league gave us names of several people who can advise the city on the Rescue Act in such a way that when we're audited, we will be in compliance. I will agree, if you will, to you, and you can use the Rescue Act money to pay them. I will agree, if you will, to ask them for proposals to pay an outside consultant to inform us on these things so that the public doesn't have to wonder who's telling the truth or who's right or who's wrong or whose information is good, who showed up on a Zoom and who didn't. You can take it from a third party. You can take from
$50,000.
you can take it from a third party whose only job will be to tell us if we're doing it correctly so that when we're federally audited, we won't have to pay anything back. I will agree to that if you will.
Do you think we'll be able to have a special call meeting on Thursday?
I really don't know because I'm not sure what everybody's schedule is on Thursday. I know right now you could do the 1,500 to 1,000 and we can
I'm
still,
talking about Thursday.
we can still try to have one this week.
You kill that dog.
I said Thursday.
I'm going to be gone Thursday afternoon and Friday at a meeting.
You gonna be going when?
And I can't do it by Zoom anymore. But up until that point, I really don't know, but we'll try. I can promise you that.
Okay.
You said you're gonna be gone
That's all
Thursday
I can, that's
afternoon?
all I can promise you.
I can't hear what you're saying.
I'm out of town Thursday afternoon, Friday,
What time you leaving
and
Thursday?
I don't really like announcing that to the public for a lot of other reasons.
I know what you're talking about, but then can y'all meet at 12 o'clock Thursday?
I,
Huh? I can. And I can, okay, so what about 12 o'clock Thursday? I have a lunch hour.
maybe, as long as it doesn't last past one, maybe I can. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, but probably we'll try. And if we need to move some stuff around, we will on my calendar. I'm certainly not against it. But I would recommend that you consider a third party, since there's so much discussion and disagreement about what's eligible, to inform us, all of us, me included, what's eligible and what's not. That's
But you always said somebody told you, you need to start getting, like Mr. Valley got his stuff in writing. You need to get yours in
the
writing.
municipal league sent it to us in writing. I'll
Okay,
have,
well,
I'll have the
why you
list.
don't ever present that to us?
I just did.
No, you didn't give it to us showing that
I
they
just
sent that to-
presented the idea to you,
No, I'm talking about, maybe I need to make this clear.
and I'll have a list. Now,
Okay, you said they sent, wait a minute, Mr. Mayor, you said they sent it to you in writing. But still, like you saying that we need a third party. Show me the black and white that they sent you. I can read, I went to the math and reading class, I went in those. So I can read, so if you can show me what they sent you, saying that what you're saying, then we won't have to have no third party, because we got what they sent him and what they sent you. And then we can read and figure out what's going on. You just telling us they said that. You're not showing us that.
so do you want me to get you a list of the third parties who can?
No,
advise
I
us?
don't need a third party. I want you to give me your email that the man sent you back saying that you don't need to pay it. That's what I want,
That I don't want,
that you don't need to pay it.
pay what?
You said that, you always saying that the municipal league told you that you didn't have to pay it, you didn't have to do this and you didn't have to do that. The incentive pay.
You mean whether the mayor has appropriations
Yeah,
authority? or
they sent you that in writing.
That's in the Constitution.
Did they
but I'll
send you
ask
that
him-
in
I'll ask
writing?
him to put it in.
Well, I
writing.
just need to see it in
I'll
writing.
ask him. to
That's
put it in
all. I
writing.
just need to see it in writing. I guess we lost a
All
point.
right.
We'll see y'all next Thursday.
So, seeing no quorum, meeting adjourned. Thank y'all. Thank you for our listeners who stayed this long.